I did it. I did it. I was almost a 701 boy. Almost. I did it. I made it. I'm sorry. I had to run downstairs and back up for the water. This wouldn't have happened if I went for the LaCroix, but we made it. I'm here. How's everyone doing tonight? So I had to run up the stairs, and that means I'm tired because I'm a big boy. So one, happy Monday, everyone. Happy new week of Mastermind Academy. Happy week 4. We're in the halfway home stretch. And so one happy Memorial Day to everyone who's in the US or anyone who participates in Memorial Day and remembering the soldiers here in the United States. Shout out to any of the soldiers out there. Shout out to anyone who has family. This is a it's a different day that means a lot to different people. So one, thank you for sorry to take away a little bit from your time off. We usually get a day off here. Sorry to take away a little bit from your time off, but hopefully we will be we're learning a lot tonight. Hopefully. Do we want to? I might as well update now. So I am just getting set up. Like I said, I lost track of time a little bit. I was doing something non-existent, like something else that didn't matter at all. So I'm just trying to mentally get in the headspace real quick, pulling up everything. What's up, the Devo 8? Good to see you. What's up, Uncle Bill Drew? And how you doing? I assume tonight will probably be a pretty late night. Thought about pushing it back a little bit. Put out a poll on Twitter, and people decided they wanted to keep it today, so we're gonna keep it today. But tonight we're gonna be learning all about S3, and so that should be pretty fun. S3 is a pretty important service inside of AWS. Very kind of keystone service. So I hope that everyone who doesn't show up goes back and watches it, because it is such a good service, such an important service. It kind of cements a lot of stuff together, so it'll be pretty dope. What's up, Chris Antoine? How you doing tonight? What's up, Mickey? How you doing? Okay, we're gonna get started earlier than usual. The goal, as usual, is to not take up the entire amount of time, which I really don't think it will take up. I mean, S3 has a lot of little concepts, but I don't think they're necessarily super complex. I just think there's a lot of little ones. There's a few interesting concepts in here. We'll learn all about S3. We'll get our hands on it. We'll see how it kind of exists from the console. We'll get some files in there. We'll talk about static web hosting, and we will get a site up and running pretty simply, kind of how we did it last time with the web server stuff, but we'll understand what the difference is between this and what we did that night. But it should be pretty simple. So let's get a shareable link. Let's get this one out to everybody. Let's see, copy link. There we go. Now you got the link. Anyone who wants to hop in there. Let me take a little sip of water. It's kind of like, yeah, I have like 2 really powerful computers in here, and I have the lights and stuff. This room gets a little warm. We got the ceiling fan running. It's a little warm in here. Might have to move the we have central AC, but like this room can't keep up with the rest of the house. I think mostly because of the computer. I'm gonna have to put a we have like a window unit downstairs that we used to use, because the upstairs used to get pretty hot. I'm gonna have to use that because it's a little bit warm, but it might be because I ran up the stairs. So we'll see here. What's up, Meant For? How you doing? Hey, good to see you again. What's up, KB Brown? Good to see you. Do I have any announcements? I feel like I always have something to tell you all, but I never remember when I'm supposed to. So maybe I should start writing them down. Oh, I'm gonna start a weekly, like little quick video series. Not these probably won't be on YouTube, but on like Instagram and stuff, highlighting and kind of showcasing the things from the stuff that I learned for the last week. I started working on one today. I did not finish it, but I'm gonna try to release them every Monday, probably Monday, of just like all the stuff that I learned from the last week, just real quick and just hands-on, showing what I learned and what it does, because I think that's pretty cool. And I'm pretty excited about it. So I'll let you guys know when that's coming. I'm working on my sweet video editing skills. It's tougher than I thought. The problem is, I know I know what you can do with video editing. I know the upper limits of what someone's skill could be. Mine is at the, you know, as close to the bottom as it probably could be, but because of that, I keep trying to strive for more when it doesn't need to be more. I'm not putting out feature length movies here. I'm just putting out some informational videos, but it's fun. It's actually something I really like, but I just keep wanting to learn all the new stuff, and it'll take me like 3 hours to get to watch all these videos and get all these settings to do this like 20-second thing that people are showing, but it's fun. Okay, let's go. Let's get started on tonight. S3, the simple storage service inside of AWS. This is S3. It's very important keystone service here that you need to know about. So simple storage service plus static website hosting. Keep it simple, smarty. We are not doing keep it simple stupid anymore. We are only doing keep it simple smarty because we are all smarty pantses, and if emojis had pants on them, we would have chosen the one with the pants as well. Maybe there's one with pants. I know there is a pants emoji, but there's not a smiley face pants emoji, so maybe we need to make one. But let's hop right into it. What is S3? Amazon S3, and again, this one is not right off of Wikipedia. Usually first slide's a Wikipedia slide. Today's first slide is not a Wikipedia slide. It is I forgot where I grabbed it from. I didn't want to grab it straight from Amazon. This wording may be straight from Amazon. I didn't want to grab it straight from Amazon. I wanted to grab it from, you know, somewhere like Wikipedia. So I know I got it from somewhere like Wikipedia, but Amazon Simple Storage Service, Amazon S3, is a scalable, high-speed, web-based cloud storage service designed for online backup and archiving of data and applications on Amazon Web Services. So at the end of the day, S3 is simply it's simply, you know, kind of a cloud storage service made by Amazon, and it allows for a number of things, including backup, archival, and actually applications as well, which we're going to dive into tonight. So why S3? What's great about S3? Why is it this cornerstone product? Let's learn some of the things about it that make it great. One, it is easy on the wallet. So S3, they said in the first slide, it is scalable, high speed, and web-based, but it's also cheap. So those things are great on their own right, but they're even better when it is cheap, when it won't cost you too much. So S3 is easy on your wallet. It is pretty cheap. It's actually very cheap. I wanted to put it's very cheap actually. We're going to look at the pricing of it in a second, but here's what you pay for. And this might not sound cheap when we first say it, but these are the things that you pay for. You pay for you pay per gigabyte of storage. So just like any other cloud service, you might have your iCloud or something where you're paying 99 cents and you get, an extra 50 gigabytes of data storage. You pay for each amount of gig that you have stored inside of S3. And we'll talk about the pricing. It's pretty cheap. It's like less than a penny per gig or something, but we'll check it for sure. You pay for the request and retrieval. So every request that is made, maybe not every request, but the requests that are made to S3 to be able to get information or do something with information is something that you also get tracked for. Data transfer, so how much data is moving in and out of S3, you do have to pay for that as well. And the management and replication of the things inside of S3. We'll get there. We're going to learn about what the management and replication means, what options you have there, but you may have to pay for those things as well. So sounds like a lot. There's a link here. We're not going to look at it yet. We are going to look at it. You can feel free to click on it, but we'll break it down, kind of see the pricing there. We'll do some manual calculations to kind of see what you might pay per month in S3, but again, it's actually very, very cheap compared to a lot of other cloud storage options. Next one, I think I skipped one. It's massively scalable. This is a huge one here. So one, what is scalability? Scalability is the ability for this service to increase its ability to meet the demand that is being requested of it. So if a lot of people are requesting data from it, it is massively scalable, both to requests and to the amount of data that is inside it. It is infinitely scalable for the amount of data. We're going to learn why in a little bit. This is something that is native to object storage. We're going to learn about object storage, but it is infinitely scalable. You don't know yet what the thing is that an S3 like drive is called. You're about to learn about that, but there's no limit on your data. Like, there's not like your computer hard drive where you put you have 500 gigabytes of space, and once you run out of it, you run out. This, on the other hand, will give you as much space as you need as time goes. Also infinitely scalable, but again, you do have to pay for what you use. But it's also any amount of data, anytime, anywhere, and that's what's so great about the scalability, and that is what's so great about S3. Again, any amount of data, anytime, anywhere. That's the benefit of it being web-based, in the cloud. And so yeah, this is what S3 is. You're probably already used to the concept and functionality of the way S3 works. You probably, again, are dealing with things like iCloud. You're probably already dealing with things like your Google Drive and things like that. S3, actually, a lot of those services are well, maybe not from the big companies, but a lot of the cloud services are probably built actually on top of S3 or something like that. Dropbox at one time was built on top of S3. I don't think it is anymore, but it was at a time. And before we get to this next piece, any questions so far? We only covered a couple of slides. Any questions so far before we get into this next piece? I still don't know what transfer is. If I go to network tab in Chrome DevTools, look at my network tab in the bottom. Is that the transfer? Great question. So those, what's that? Beam Stream Official. The transfer, the data transfer that we're talking about here, and actually we have the pricing model up here. This is actually so when you take a file and you upload it to the cloud or you download it from the cloud, you are pushing data through a network. You're pushing that data. You're pushing those ones and zeros, that information through a network, and that takes up bandwidth. And so that transfer, the data transfer is the amount of data that is transmitted between the servers that you are accessing things from, between the servers you're accessing things from, in and out of it. So it's not something that any of us are going to have to worry about for a while. Generally, the cost of data transfer for Amazon for S3 is actually 0 for up to 1 gigabyte or gigabit or something, in and out. We'll check that in a second. But it's not generally something you're gonna have to worry about. You have to be moving a lot of data to have to pay. You're gonna be moving a bunch of data for you to have to be having to pay for it. And then when you do have to pay for it, it is actually extremely cheap. 9 cents per gig for the next 10 terabytes, which is pretty interesting. It's actually really, really cheap. But yes, it is actually the data kind of going over the pipe, kind of transferring information in and out of this service. And we'll see that a little more real time. We'll upload some things and I can show you how much data you're pulling when things are being requested. I can show you how you can see how much data transfer is happening during those times. All right, so here is S3's shining beacon of light here. This is it's great for a lot of things. It's cheap, it's scalable, all that stuff. But like, this is the true backbone on why people love S3. And it's because it's extremely durable. And now I have some stuff about availability up here, which is not durability, but we're gonna talk about that in a second. But it is extremely durable. It has 11 nines of durability, and this is how it's described in the industry. What does 11 nines mean? 11 nines means, 11 nines mean it has this much durability. Let's make this bigger. It means that it has 99.999 9, 9, wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. That's it right there. 11 nines of durability. And that's how they describe it. Instead of having to say 99.99999999999% durability, instead you have 11 nines of durability. This is great. What is, so that sounds very durable, but what is, you might be asking yourself, what is durability? And durability is simply the probability that the object will remain intact and accessible after a period of 1 year. That is the metrics that they use to express the durability of their services, of the file. So over a course of a year, your file is 11 nines durable. So in the little example here is 100% durability would mean that there's no possible way for your files to be lost. 90% durability would mean that there's a 1 in 10 chance, and so forth. So this durability is your data being intact and available for you. So the loss of data, the percentage of the chance that you might lose some data is pretty low, and you can imagine that that's something that is very, very important. But yeah, 11 nines of durability. They only have, it's built for 4 nines of availability. Here's the difference. Durability is that your file will like not be lost, but availability is that you can access your file. It's possible for your file to not be accessible, but also not be lost. So availability is your ability to access the file. Durability is your file's existence. So it only has 4 nines of availability, so it's possible for your file not to be available at a certain time over the course of a year, but they only guarantee 3 nines. So it's built for this. Hold on, it's built for this, 4 nines, but they only guarantee this. So 0.1% of the time over the year, you may not have access to the stuff that you need, and that can be, it can be frustrating, that stuff's super important, but just to make sure that you know that the way that it does this, the way that it ensures the data is there and durable and mostly available is it does replication throughout different availability zones. So we learned about regions and availability zones. You upload your stuff to your S3 storage device. I don't want to give you the name yet. We're about to get there, but you upload it to there, and then that file gets replicated to other availability zones, so that there are backups of this file, so there are different ways to access it, so that there's some consistency in your data in case the drives that you're whatever's saving your file, in case something happens to that, and that thing needs to be rebuilt or something, the data exists in multiple places for you to be able to access, and so that data is pretty safe. So any questions about durability or availability so far? Do you pay for both traffic and storage on S3? Yes, Hugo, you pay for both traffic and both storage. Sounds like you're paying for a lot. It's very, very cheap. There's a free buffer on the traffic, and the storage is very cheap. It's extremely cheap. I was watching this video from last week's class. Oh yeah, last week's class. What did we do last week? Last week was interesting. You're here with us now. Perfect. Okay. So super durable, really nice. Now, here we go. This storage is not the type of storage, when we talk about computing resources and we talked about your hard drive, this is not like your hard drive. This is object storage and not block storage. So I have a video for you in the classroom about block storage versus object storage. I think I actually posted a primer for this earlier, but object storage is not block storage. So in the image over here, is it capturing my mouse? Yes, it's capturing my mouse. We figured this out on Saturday that it wasn't capturing my mouse, and I was hurt about this because I had been trying to use my mouse to show you guys, to really highlight things for you guys before, and obviously you weren't seeing it, but now the mouse is here, it's front and center. But block storage is over here on the left. This is how things are stored onto magnetic disks and onto SSDs. Basically, different bits and bytes of data are stored in these data blocks, and these blocks around the disk, they're assigned spaces, and whenever it needs to be read, it's all gathered together and kind of put together and given back to you. The files are then given back to you. Object storage is a little bit different. It's so I don't want to confuse you, but I'm going to confuse you anyway. Object storage is likely, I don't know if Amazon's is, but most places object storage, it has to be, is backed by block storage. So yes, your files need to be like, they're saving your files somewhere, but object storage works in a little bit different way. It stores an entire object, and that object has multiple pieces. So the object itself has things like the actual data. So like maybe you're storing an image inside of S3. Yes, it is storing the image like it was stored to your hard drive, but it's also storing information about that image, something like an ID, metadata, which is little bits of information about that thing. So maybe there's a, other, like maybe there's a description or something else that gives information about the data and attributes and things. So there's an object is like a collection of different pieces of data that refers to this item that you are storing. Why object storage instead of block storage? So when you get to once you got to the cloud and you want to work on things at scale, one of the big things object storage helps with is scalability. It can infinitely scale, and so it's not kind of tied to the same block storage concepts. Again, like I said, block storage is probably underlying the object storage they have here, but it just allows for scalability. It allows for you to manage your I don't want to call it data, but your items easier, your objects easier. It allows you to do some easier management, some easier querying. It gives you a lot of flexibility over what you're doing. But yes, this object storage is not you can't use it for things like installing an operating system. It does not work for something like that. That you need to do block storage for something like that. Like if your computer cannot run off of something that did object storage. But for all intents and purposes right now, just for right now, I want you to, after this, go watch the video on block storage versus object storage. You don't necessarily need to be super in depth on the differences between them at all. You just need to know that they're two different things. And I think the thing that you need to focus on is that object storage, contains the actual item, like the data, that like the image or the PDF or something, and also other information, specifically metadata about that thing. That's the difference that's the only difference that you kind of need to know about these. And you need to know that S3 is in fact object storage, as opposed to some of the other storage types that we learned about, like EBS, Elastic Block Store. It's called Elastic Block Store. That is block storage. That is good for putting operating systems on. That is the normal kind of computer storage that you're familiar with. I'm trying to think anything else. Again, everything put into an object storage store place is called an object, which would make sense. But yeah, that's it. Any questions about that? What's up, Fancy Hardware? How you doing? Good to have you. Think of object store as a database of your data atop a physical disk. Yes, that's exactly what it is. It is a database of your data on top of a physical disk. So again, underlying object storage is really block storage, but it's really a kind of a key value store database on top of what you're doing. We've done a little bit of key value store stuff here, but remember those keys and those values, it describes information about your data, and it makes it a little bit easier to do things that you would want to do, things that are enabled by cloud computing. It allows you to do a lot of those things a lot more easily. It's not perfect for everything, but it's good for a lot of things. Okay, past the object store, the storage volumes are called buckets. So you'll commonly hear them referred to as S3 buckets. That's what they're called. Why are they called buckets? Really, you can think about them like folders in the cloud, but yeah, I mean, a bucket holds things. Imagine that bucket is holding your data. Yeah, so they're called buckets. And each individual bucket can hold, again, any number of items, an unlimited number of items. But buckets have a universal namespace. What does that mean? That means the names must be unique globally. It means once a name is kind of carved out for this bucket, and no other bucket with the same name can be anywhere in the world. And that is because of the way that DNS works. DNS is actually the thing that allows you to type in google.com into your browser, and how your computer knows what IP address to go to get to Google. And so because of that, the namespaces are universal. You cannot, yes, they must be unique globally. That does not mean things can't be reused. So maybe, let's say someone else had, I wanted the bucket Aaron Brooks is cool, and it was not available for me. It does not mean I'll never be able to get it. It just means I won't be able to get it until someone else deletes their bucket. So you can also reuse buckets. Like maybe you started using a bucket for one thing and you need it in a different account. They are account specific as well. You wanted to move it to someone else's account. Maybe you were using it for a project years ago in your personal account, and now you want to use this for your business. You can reuse it, but you got to delete it first, and then you've got to pick it back up once it's deleted, and it may take some time for it to kind of get freed up. So it's kind of risky. So if someone else grabs it, they got it. Nothing else you can do about it. But yeah, universal namespace. Names must be unique. And then the objects in them. So we said that it's infinitely scalable, but the objects, that being the individual files, pieces of data that go into the bucket, they can range from 0 bytes. This is very important. They can be 0 bytes. You can push 0 byte files into S3, and it can go all the way up to 5 terabytes. So one object can be up to 5 terabytes in size. That is very large. 5 terabytes is a very large object. If that's too much for you, yeah, I mean, you probably, there's a million solutions that you can get to before that becomes a big problem. But yes, they can be 0 bytes up to 5 terabytes. Pretty important. That is something that I can almost guarantee they will ask you. They'll ask you something about either the limit of 5 terabytes or the minimum of 0 terabytes. Probably a true or false question that says S3 in S3 you can put a object that is 0 bytes, true or false, and that would be a true statement. So buckets, they're called buckets. Each naming of the bucket must be unique, and there's some rules to the naming. I'll give you the thing too. There's things you can't have in there, and I think there's a maximum. There used to be a maximum in US East of buckets that existed in US East, even though this is a global service. We'll talk about that in a second too. They used to be 255 characters. Now that's no longer the case. I think there's I think it's a lot shorter than 255 now. But yes, they must be unique. Any questions about that so far? I know that Mr. Bucket Pick was why you waited for the name. That is one of the biggest reasons why I waited for it. Mr. Bucket was I never had a Mr. Bucket, ever had a Mr. Bucket, but I remember the commercials because they were so prime. And you should go watch some YouTube videos on the Mr. Bucket commercials if you've never seen it. Mr. Bucket. Something, Mr. Bucket. It was great. It was a great commercial. I'm gonna go watch one in a little bit after this. I have to. So what could be 5 terabytes? A database dump? It could be a database dump. It could literally be anything. I don't know. I've never run into a 5 terabyte file ever. But there are organizations who are doing maybe some kind of transaction logs. Sure. I don't know why you wouldn't have any type of rolling logs where I don't know why it would be 5 terabytes, but I've never worked in an organization that is that large. But yeah, you can put up to 5 terabytes or something. Maybe you have maybe the way you're keeping all your transaction logs or something, you're zipping them all up, and you're zipping them up into giant zip files with 5 terabytes of data, 4.8 terabytes of data. I don't know, but I wouldn't do it at all. Reserve all the best global names with 0 byte files. So the files don't matter. Just the bucket, just the bucket. But if you did do that, if you reserved all the best global names with 0 byte files, you could then grab those files. You could write a script to grab all those files and generate buckets for you based on that. Because I don't think buckets cost any money. We'll check on that. I don't think buckets themselves, I don't think they cost you any money at all. Only the stuff inside of them. Yeah, okay, giant tar balls. Yep, perfect. Yes, object in this context, object equals file. an object is kind of a single piece of data, a single item that you're putting here. Again, right now, think about S3 like a giant hard drive, the same way you plug in a hard drive to a computer. Now, a thumb drive is actually block storage, but you take it and you grab, maybe you grab that video file, you drag it onto there, and maybe you grab that that Word doc and you drag it onto there, whatever. It's very similar. It's just like Dropbox, just like the service Dropbox, just like your Google Drive, again, but it's object storage. So the way that it saves is it saves other information about the file as well, other than just that file. There's again that metadata, there's IDs and things, there's attributes that go along with that for you to be able to do certain things. Okay, we're getting through it. We're getting through really fast. We're gonna run through all the slides first. We're gonna hop into S3. We're gonna create some buckets. We're gonna put some stuff in there, and then we'll knock out the S3 static web host and stuff, and we'll get out of here. We're gonna get out of here early. I promise you, tonight's the night where I finally say we're gonna get out of here early, and we're gonna get out of here early. More than 15 minutes. We're gonna get out of here really early because it's a holiday, and because mostly because it's a holiday. Okay. Data consistency. That sounds important. The word consistency sounds like something you might want, but a data consistency. So we talked about the durability already and a little bit about the availability, but how consistent is the data? So let's talk about that. We're going to introduce some new concepts to you here. This is very important and will be asked. I can almost guarantee you this will be asked on the exam as well. There'll be a question about this on the exam. Okay. Initial uploads of new objects are immediately available to you. So if you have a bucket, you have a bucket that's going to store some of your data, and the first time you put some stuff in there, and so the act of actually putting data into the bucket is actually called a put. There are HTTP methods that allow you to perform these actions. Whenever you drag something to Dropbox or to Google Drive or something, you are performing a put, capital P, capital U, capital T. And so when you do a put to Amazon with a brand new file that does not already exist in that bucket, you will get something called read after write consistency. Very important. Write that down. That is absolutely something you should remember. And again, break down the words. What this means is you can immediately access that object after you put it there, so you can read it. So when you're putting something, you put it up, but when you want to get it, and that's the HTTP verb to access information. If you want to grab information to be able to read it, you get it. You capital G E T, you get it. I'm gonna show you guys what those verbs mean and like just some information about those verbs. But you can read the file immediately after you write it. And so it's called read after write consistency. As soon as you write it, you can read it immediately, but it is only for the initial upload of new objects. It's really, really important. This took me forever to really kind of nail down, and honestly, I don't even think I mentally really nailed it down. Like, I read it and I heard about it and I was like, oh, okay, that makes a little bit of sense to me. But until I saw it, and I saw the effects of this in action, and I'm gonna talk about this after we learn the next piece. So initial uploads of new data, new objects, are immediately available to you after you upload them. If you upload something, if you put something into your bucket and you immediately ask to read it, and you immediately ask to get that information about what you just uploaded, you will get it. And that is what read after write consistency is. Now, here's the other side of this. Updates to an object. So if you've already written a file, so after you do the very first initial update of a file, of an object, if you update that object or you delete the object, that data will be it'll be eventually consistent for you. You'll eventually be able to see those updates. And I know that's a pretty vague term, but it is called eventual consistency. So the first one was read after write consistency. So that's immediately. So as soon as we write it, we can read it. So read after write consistency. And this one is called eventual consistency. And this just means that the data will eventually become available to us. And again, this is for updates to an object that already exists or deletions. Now, let's talk about that a little bit, because again, this concept can be a little confusing. When you upload, when you put a file into your S3 bucket, what S3 does to ensure that it's durable, to ensure that it's available, is it copies that file to other availability zones. So it takes that file and it starts the process of copying it around to other availability zones, backing it up, making sure that if something should happen to the server that you just uploaded it to, that that data can be rebuilt and that data can, you know, be put back together for you, so that your information is not lost. That's how they achieve the 11 nines of durability, or the stuff that you care about. Now, so what happens is, if you immediately put that information up into your bucket and you immediately grab it, it'll deliver you the information that's currently there back to you. But after it gets up there, it starts the process of, you know, transferring data to those other availability zones and spreading the information around. This takes a while to call. This is called propagation. The time it takes for kind of that data to get to everywhere it needs to be, it has to propagate to all of those servers and all of those spaces, those other availability zones. So when you go to do the next update, you may immediately get the data back. Let's say you put an update and you requested that information back. You might get the data you were looking for, but it's possible that you won't. Why is it possible that you won't? It's possible that you won't because the new data that's been pushed up there may not be, it's probably not propagated to the areas that you are retrieving from. So if there are different availability zones, sometimes you might be grabbing data from one availability zone or another. You kind of don't know where you're grabbing that data from, where S3 is giving you the data from. So when you put information up there and you try to request it, it may be pulling from another availability zone that still has the old data, but it will eventually become consistent. The data will eventually catch up and you'll get the right information. This is a very, very important topic to keep in mind for anyone who's trying to go be a solutions architect. It is a huge thing to work around. Now, this isn't something that takes minutes or hours. Usually it's immediate. Usually it's fairly immediate if you're doing it yourself. Like if you are, you know, submitting a command and then taking a few seconds and submitting another command, you probably see it. You'll probably see the data and information that you want. But if you have an automated process that, you know, pushes a bunch of files into S3, and then immediately grabs information about it, or, you know, like there's some transactional things happening there, you have to account for this. You have to account for, it's possible that you will not get the most up-to-date data when you do that. You'll get an old version of the file. And so it's something to think about. Again, it's usually really quick. It's usually very, very fast. But if you're doing things programmatically, if you have scripts running, if you have programs running, it is absolutely something you have to think about. So 2 big things. When you first put a piece of data, a new object, a brand new object into S3, it is immediately available to you if you try to read it. And that is called read after write consistency. But if you try to make updates or delete or perform any deletions against an object, that will give you, that data will become eventually consistent. It may not be immediate to you. If you try to request information about it, it may show that it's still there. It may show old information. And again, it's usually just a small amount of time, very small amount of time, but it could take a couple seconds. It could take a minute. I've never seen it take more than a couple seconds, to be honest. At the most, I've seen it take like 8 or 9 seconds. But again, that gets to be problematic when you have automation, transactional services, things checking against that stuff, you know, multiple things checking against the same bucket at the same time. Like we actually had a job that was putting thousands of files, like every couple minutes it will put like thousands of files and updates to thousands of files in an S3 bucket, and immediately after it was doing that, it would another program would start to pull that data, and what we started to see is we were running into something called a race condition where we were getting some interesting data coming out of there, and we were getting some files were updated, some files weren't, and stuff. And it's just something that nobody had accounted for, so it's pretty interesting. That eventual consistency also is affected by the amount of files that you do push at once. If you are pushing thousands of files, the process of propagation may take a bit longer. So think about that. Let's stew on that for just a few minutes. Any questions so far about data consistency? Read after write consistency. Whoops, way too far. Read after write consistency or eventual consistency. When creating a bucket, it's not publicly accessible by default. Correct. It is not publicly accessible by default. We're going to talk about policies and stuff tonight. Could you store all the images and files from your web server there and use EC2 for compute? Yes. Lewis RA93, yes, you could. This is a common paradigm to grab your assets, like your images and things, from S3 or have the client do it, with the client being the person's web browser. It is something that you could do if it makes sense. A lot of people do it. Yes, Key Lime TV, we are setting up a static site tonight. Would that be considered a distributed system? Yes, it would actually be considered a distributed system. What a distributed system is, for anyone who's not in pipelines, it is when distributed computers, so not one centralized computer, but multiple computers and resources are used in a fashion where they all perform different aspects of the system, but it's designed to make it appear to the user as one experience. So when you go to a website, you may think you're getting information from one server, but it may be pulling information from disparate systems. So maybe doing the compute over here, which may be pulling images and things from S3, and then it may be grabbing data from the database that's over here, completely separated. But it's just networked computing resources all working together to make it seem like you have a seamless computing experience. So yes, Lewis, that is a distributed system. A background job to generate a PDF, upload it to S3. I'll be able to get it, read it back to the user via callback of some kind right after it's uploaded. Correct. Yes, that is the perfect use case. If you have a background job, generates a PDF, uploads it to S3, you'll be able to grab that information and give it to the user immediately. But if you are writing, if the same process can update that PDF, it is possible that the updates won't be seen if you go to do that get right after you push something, after you update it. But like I said, you'll likely see it. You will very likely see it, but it's possible. Eventual consistency equals smashing the refresh button. Yes, I can't tell you 100% smashing the refresh button. Like, once you know that, like, you'll do that all the time. Like, you won't see your update immediately. You'll hit refresh a couple times and then you'll see it. Like I said, it happens pretty quick. So it's the same process that DNS, like, of propagating the data around the world to different servers. Yes, but like, it's not like DNS propagation, but it is, yes, propagating the information around. So yes. Check when the latest update to an object has occurred. Yes, there is a way to check. Yes, there's a way to check when the latest update has occurred. Yes, and you can actually use that to do some stuff. But yeah, I don't think we're gonna talk about it tonight. Maybe when we get in the console, I can show you some of that stuff as well. Okay, that's probably the hardest concept we're gonna cover tonight. So if you don't understand, it's okay. Like, that's gonna be the one I need you to stew on, just to make sure we got it, because it's pretty important. They will ask you about this on almost all of the exams. They'll like set up a scenario, and you need to know those two things. Okay, now forget the web server. So we just learned about web servers, and I'm saying forget the web server. It's not really true. Not really true. It's just a fun thing to say. But I say this because S3 offers hosting functionality for static websites, and we got a little bit of static over here, a little bit of TV static, something that you don't see much anymore. TV static used to be our friend, but S3 without a web server, it's not a computer. You don't have, you can't install a web server on it, but it allows you to host static websites For dynamic websites, you must still use a web server like Nginx, like we set up last time, to be able to do this. So the site that we set up last time in Nginx was a static site. We're gonna talk about static sites right now. There's a video in your classroom that goes more in depth about the differences between static and dynamic sites, mostly so you can understand what types of things you can host inside of Amazon, inside of S3. But a static website only uses either HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, but only JavaScript on the client, which is your web browser. These are kind of the three technologies that make up the web. It does not have to use all three of those things. It can use just HTML. But this site, some people are kind of confused because they think that the site can't have anything that changes on it or anything like that. That's not true. That you can still have cool buttons that change color and stuff when you click them, and animations and stuff. Like, you can still have all that stuff because that's what's enabled by JavaScript, HTML, CSS. These are things that can happen. But what it means is there's two different kind of static sites and dynamic sites. Dynamic sites, generally what's happening is you have a server in the background. People are making a request to a server, and then you have code that is performing calculations and actions to on the fly generate the structure of the page, information about the page, kind of on the fly. It is returning, it's processing things, and it is then returning information about that web page. Again, think about something like a shopping cart page. Maybe you're on Amazon, or maybe you're on your favorite shoes website. What's the one people are going to right now? I think it's Zappos one, or there's one that starts with an A that I don't know about. AWS. I don't know. Is this it? I don't know. There's one. That's not what I was talking about. ASOS? Is it ASOS? I don't know, man. People are fancy now doing all this. Yeah, online shopping. Okay, cool. Clothing store. But a site like this, when I go to Shopmin and I add this sweet summer okay, let's add our favorite clothes. Let's add our regular fit slub cotton shirt in scenic placement print. So let's get that. Let's add it to the cart. Add it to the cart. Oh, I have to select the size first. Let's go ahead and I'll probably, this stuff's usually cut small. So I'll add it to the cart, and the stuff gets added to my cart over here on the right. So what's happening when you do all this stuff is ASOS does not know what you're going to add to your cart. They can't pre-put into their code. They can't hard code in here what is going to be in the cart at any given time. So what happens is when I click on add to cart, information is going on in the background, database, all this other stuff, and it is dynamically generating information about this page, and then it's delivering it to my browser to display to me. But it happens kind of on the fly. It happens on a server. Static websites do not do that. They have everything kind of hard coded where you are. They have static files. There's no background processing. What you see is what you get. Like, whatever information is on those sites, and you go to access these files, you will be given that, and that's what you have to work with. And so it'll make a little more sense when you watch that guy's video. Some people are always like super confused because, again, when people say static site, sometimes people think it's just like, oh, just a page that doesn't do anything. Not quite true. The page can do stuff. It can in fact do stuff. So the more and more you learn about web technologies and kind of how the web works, it's easier to understand the difference between a static website and a dynamic one. But S3 allows for static websites to be hosted pretty easily, actually. So yo, what's up, Cyber Barbie? Thank you so much for the raid. I'm glad I saw it in time. We're looking at some TV static here. We're learning all about simple storage service inside of Amazon. Yeah, we're learning about how it's a keystone service, and we're learning about how you can host a static website here. But yeah, really appreciate it. Shout out to Cyber Barbie. Cyber. Wait, I can type today. What is this? Shout out Cyber Barbie. How you doing? I know you've been learning a lot of. I was lurking yesterday for a while. I didn't really say anything because I was trying to do some work. Not yesterday. maybe it was like last week actually, but I hope you guys had a good stream today. I know you guys have been learning a bunch of stuff. I know I saw you tweet something about converting some type of math thing to C++, and I was like, yeah, like I'm good on all that. Like I will keep it. That sounded hard for me, so I mean, hopefully that worked out well for you. Python data visualization, that's dope. That's dope. Made some graphs and stuff. That's actually really fun to do in Python. Maybe we need to do some of that inside of Decoded. What's up, everyone? What's up, Raiders? What's up, Manny Flames? What's up, GACBL? What's up, Lafioska? How's everyone doing? You're just like me, trying to figure out the raid button. But dope, that's what's up. I like that. I definitely like that. But yeah, like I said, we're today's Horizons. This is our boot camp, our AWS boot camp, our cloud computing with Amazon Web Services boot camp. So we're just learning a little bit about S3 tonight. Pretty dope service. If you're interested. So we're presenting. Let's go back. Cool. Static websites. Now we're going to be learning all about storage classes. So if you play video games, you probably played a game where you had to select a class. S3 storage classes are like this. And so these storage classes are similar. I want you to start to think about them the same way you thought about EC2 instance classes. So remember, we got into the M1 and we got into the T2s, and they all had different attributes which made them good. S3 storage classes are the same way, but these storage classes are more so designed really to save you money and to help you manage your data in the cheapest, most effective way. So let's talk about those really quick. And these are very important. So the top one is standard. There's no super hyper performance one. The highest tier you can get is the standard tier, and I wouldn't even say the highest tier you can get. They all serve different purposes, but the standard tier just gives you the fastest access to your data at the most expensive costs. Well, intelligent tiering I think is the same, might be like a penny more or something, I don't know, we'll check. But standard tiering is kind of the top of the line. I can always access my data whenever I want to access my data. I get the 11 nines of durability. It's the cheap, it's the best balance of price to performance. Like, so yes, you pay for the data transfer, you pay for how big the files are, things like that, but again, you have instant access to those. So there's kind of a nice balanced pricing model. Here's where the pricing models differ. Here's where everything gets a little different. So we'll come back to intelligent tiering real quick. We'll come back to the second one. Let's learn about these three, and then we'll come back to intelligent tiering. So standard IA. So there's actually another standard one in here that I should add in here that's relatively new. But standard IA is infrequent access. So if you have files, if you have objects that you need to have saved, but you do not access them frequently, you don't access them frequently, this is the one that you would use. And why would you want to use this? What it'll do is it will be cheaper for you to store those files. So the price for the amount of gigabytes that your files are to be stored, it'll be cheaper. It'll be cheaper for you to pay for those. But the data transfer that you have to pay for, the cost to access the files goes up now. So because you're accessing them infrequently, they say, hey, we're gonna put these off into the nether regions of AWS where they're not quite as easily accessed, but when you need to access them, it's going to cost you a little more. You're going to have to pay a little bit more for the data. You're going to pay a little bit more for the requests that you're making to get it. And so that's an option for you. If you have files that you need to keep around, but you don't access them often, that's where you have this stuff. What would something like that be? Something like that would be maybe you have backups that you have to keep for maybe compliance sake. Maybe your company says, hey, you got to keep these backups around for 6 years. They have to be available at, in this amount of time. But you usually never touching them. Maybe you have documents, or you need to archive some important documents and stuff, and you just need to have them somewhere where you're likely not going to access them much at all. Maybe you're going to touch them, once every other month, once every 6 months, or something like that. This is where you would want to put something like that, that you don't need immediate access. I think IA does give you immediate access, but again, you're paying a little bit more for it. Now, Glacier is is for more of the deep archival. So if infrequent access allows you to store things for cheaper but costs more for you to access them, Glacier takes this a lot farther. This is for like true archival. IA isn't really for archival. It's for it's for saving, but it's not for like long-term archival. Glacier is for that. So maybe you need to keep, maybe your company's requirements are that all documents that go through this thing must be kept for 9 years, 10 years, something like that. But that these are like never going to be accessed unless you guys get like audited or something. You're never going to access them. Glacier is the service for you. Glacier, again, takes it even further. It makes it much cheaper for you to store your stuff, like much cheaper. So when you're keeping it around for a long time, that's great. You save a lot of money. S3 is already really cheap. Glacier is like dirt cheap to store things, but the cost for access goes up even further. And the bigger thing is that you may not be able to immediately access your stuff. As Glacier, imagine it being stuck in a giant iceberg. Imagine it being your data is frozen in this glacier, and for you to get it, sometimes somebody's got to go find the spot and melt it out and then give it to you. So it may take time for you to be able to access this data, sometimes hours, sometimes minutes, hours. They give you the windows. We'll look at the windows of time it takes for that, for you to be able to access your stuff. But again, the cost of accessing the data also goes up. So it's you really want it to be something where you're not accessing this data, almost at all, but you need to keep it around for any number of reasons. And then the last one is Glacier Deep Archive. There's one more in here that we're gonna talk about, but Glacier Deep Archive goes even further than that again, but it takes even longer for you to access your data. I think hours. I think Deep Archive, like it might be like 6 hours before you can access your data, maybe even longer. And again, even cheaper than Glacier. But again, all the fees for accessing things goes up. So that is it's for a lot of companies, like the savings between these things isn't going to be like astronomical because S3 is so cheap. But once you get to large companies who are using S3 for massive amounts of data, it can be this is where you can get huge cost savings for managing this stuff just from the size of data that you're storing alone. You can save tons of money. Up to 48 hours for Deep Archive. Yeah, see, it may take up to 48 hours for you to be able to retrieve information in Deep Archive, and you got to go like request it. It's really annoying, actually. Why so long? So the reason it's so long is because of it is two things. One is the way that it's stored, the way that they store your information. So they do some interesting things with compression. I don't know if you've ever, like when you right click a group of files and you zip it up, it's compressing that file size. So they do a number of things to compress these files to make sure that, they're taking up the least amount of space on their servers as possible their space is money. So that's part of it. And so the decompression of that may take lots of time because that takes computing power. And that is why, that's one of the reasons why it costs more to access it, because now they've got to expend compute units to be able to get your data back. So yeah, why so long? One, because of the compression that they do on it, and two, I think it's also because of the way that they save it. I think it's a little more I think they put, I want to say, I watched something else. I want to say they're putting your data, they're like rebuilding your data from disparate pieces. And like, it's a little bit weird. Like your object is not really complete in the way that they store it in Glacier, but I may be wrong about that second piece. But I know the first piece has to do with compression and the way that they compress your data for long-term storage. Yeah, and then so there are two more here. Actually, we didn't talk about intelligent tiering, and we're gonna go look at these in a second. We didn't talk about intelligent tiering, but there's another one, which is infrequent access, single availability zone. So we know that S3, it copies the different availability zones to provide increased durability to your files, increased accessibility, availability. But if you want to save some money, or it's not important, if it's okay to you want to keep the file around, but like if it should go away, it's not the end of the world, you can do standard IA, or you can do IA single availability zone. And what it'll do is it'll keep it from copying to other availability zones. You'll be able to access it from one place, and and it'll be cheaper. But again, you lose a lot. You lose a lot of durability, I think. And you lose a lot of availability. I think it drops by a 9 for availability, which is actually pretty big when there's only 3 and 4. But yes, do any of these S3 classes have to do with availability zone? Yes, all of them will store in all available it'll replicate to multiple availability zones, unless you do the one that says, hey, only give me one availability zone. And again, there are different pricing models based on all of these. Let's go take a look at them real quick, what they look like when you're in there. It'll explain these things. It'll give you some more intricacies of them as well. But yeah, it's pretty interesting. I had a few questions based on storage classes regarding cost, retrieval times, important stuff. If you're thinking about search, absolutely Keylime TV. I was surprised, like, I guess I never really thought about when I took the developer cert. The developer cert was kind of right up my alley. And like, it's just kind of the questions that were asked were the way I thought about things. They were about implementation. Like the developer cert was like, oh, like to do this, you have to click one of these things, or like to do this, I have to submit this command. That made sense to me. When I started studying for the solutions architect pro, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and just take the solutions architect associate, just because like I didn't study for it. I was like, I've been like studying for like, I was studying for like a week. And I was like, all right, I'll take the associate. You know, I've been doing stuff with AWS. I have one cert, it'll be easy. But they started asking me questions about pricing, something I had not been focused on at all. Like, I was like, man, I know, like, I was like, oh, I know that S3 storage has classes, and that their infrequent access means that's where I put the stuff that, you know, I access infrequently. It makes kind of sense. And I knew Glacier was like long-term archival, but I never really thought about the concepts of the pricing model and like what it actually, like what they were charging you for, and like what scenarios would be best for certain things. Because, you know, I mean, like there's some that are a little bit confusing where it may seem like where it's a toss-up between Glacier or infrequent access. No one can give you a real true time. Like, what is it? What's infrequent access? Is it 2 weeks? Is it 2 months? Is it 6 months? Is it 24 hours? Like, what is it? What do you consider accessing infrequently? And again, it's a matter of math. It's a matter of your workflow. So it's pretty interesting. If standard IA has single AZ, does it suffer from propagation issues still? Great question. That's a great question. I don't think that it does. But generally you wouldn't want to use standard IA single AZ to read after you write. Like the goal of infrequent access is that you're not going to be accessing infrequently. I think it'll be weird to kind of put it there and immediately request it, but I do not think it has that problem. I don't know for sure. I assume that it would not have that problem. But it will cost you more to retrieve that data though. So when you run that get, actually that's pretty interesting. Maybe that's actually a really good one. We should actually do some math about that. Maybe we're developing an application. All my pipelines people, maybe we're developing a suite application, like someone said before, where people are inputting data and we're generating a PDF for them, and that PDF needs to be saved somewhere. Let's say it gets put in S3. We want to store it in S3, and then after we store it in S3, we want to get that information back to show to the user or to give the user a download. If this is the only time that we are gonna like access this thing, and like it's not something that they're allowed to pull up later, and we just need to have it there, maybe it does make sense to use like a single AZ thing, where push it, immediately get it. It'll cost us more to make that one request, but that price is very low, like not even a penny. Like it's very, very low, and it may be easier to just leave it there, you know, because it's the only time we're gonna access it. Maybe that's cheapest. It's not cheapest, but maybe it's cheapest. It could be beneficial money wise. The reason why it's not the most beneficial is because of the standard intelligent tiering, or it might not be. The standard intelligent tiering is where Amazon will use machine learning to take this burden off of you. If you are not comfortable with trying to figure out, do the pricing and figure out how much data you have going in and out of your S3 buckets, and figure out how much, files are sprawled, how much data is sprawled across all of your S3 buckets, maybe standard intelligent tiering is something you may want to look into. What this does is, again, it uses machine learning to determine the life cycle for files. So we're going to talk about life cycles in a little bit, but this tier operates like standard at first. But you know, if you have a file that doesn't get any requests for, you know, a few months, a few weeks, it will automatically move it to another storage tier to save you money. So that's their goal. The goal, like Amazon really does, they do a surprising amount to save you money. Why do they do a surprising amount to save you money? To keep you biting onto their new services. And there's something to be said about controlling, like if I can be cheap enough, it's just like what they do with their products. If I can make it cheap enough for people to like really come here, like if everyone's coming here, we have they have a lot of leverage. They have a tons of leverage. Like they could drop something on us tomorrow, where there's a service that we all have to have, and maybe we got to pay more money. You know, they're kind of in control of a substantial part of the internet right now, so it's pretty interesting. It's something to think about a little bit. But yeah, and the standard intelligent tiering will in fact do most of this for you. Maybe it won't be right. Maybe it'll put something in a place where you kind of need it. Like it can get in a weird place with intelligent tiering. If like, let's say you're a tax official, maybe you have a tax company, and maybe you have files that you don't access for, you know, 9 months out of the year that you just don't touch, and maybe it'll see those things and put them into, you know, IA first and then drop them into Glacier. And then, you know, but 3 months out of the year, you are hammering those files and you are retrieving them often, very, very often. And now it's costing you a bunch for you to retrieve that stuff until it pulls it out of that storage class. Again, that's something that you could do manually as well. Not a big deal, but just something to think about. Just trying to contextualize it for some of you. The standard, actually, rumor has it the AWS Glacier uses 10 trillion 5.25 inch floppy disks to store your data. You know what? Wouldn't surprise me, but every person who knows the data is stored bound by blood. That's you know, again, nothing about Amazon would surprise me. Like nothing. I would be like, seems inefficient, but you know what? I believe it. I absolutely believe it. It's hard for me to say most, but yes, for a lot of use cases, standard intelligent tiering would be a safe bet. I wouldn't say it would make the most sense. I think it would make the most sense. Wouldn't necessarily mean it's going to save you the most money, but it might in terms of your time, how much you're being paid per hour versus, again, this stuff is pretty cheap. So it gets a lot more important as you kind of at scale, as you're working for a company that pushes tons of data in S3. So yeah, see, yes, isn't actually C's, it's AWS Glacier storage. Yeah, that's a good one. I first off, when I found out about that C Vault, it was pretty interesting, and I proceeded to find out about GitHub's also like Arctic Vault at the same time, which was very interesting. I was like, oh, okay, this is very interesting. I'll share that with you all. Okay, that's S3 storage classes. So different classes to store your data, all with varying levels of cost. So let's look at it, and let's look at the pricing model a little bit, because again, it's good to see. It is good to see, so you can actually see how cheap it is. So pay only for what you use. There's no minimum fee. That is, you know, that's pretty important. So for S3 standard, check this out. The first 50 terabytes that you have per month, that's a lot of data. Most companies aren't touching this, aren't getting anywhere near this. Like seriously, most companies are not. Now there are plenty of companies who are, but most companies are not. You will be here, and if you aren't here, I don't know why you have that much data. I don't know what it is. I don't want to know what it is, but it is 0.23 cents per gigabyte. So 2.3 cents per gigabyte. So let's say you have 100 gigs of data. 100 gigs times it is next times 0.023. Is it 0.23 or is it 0.023? Yes, 0.23. For storage alone, will be 2.3 cents. That was stupid. I should have done my simple zero math and just moved the thing. But for 100 gigs of data, you are in fact paying you're paying $2.3. You're paying $2.3 for 100 gigs of storage. So 100 gigs of storage space. Again, 100 gigs is like, you know, a couple of well, Blu-rays can be pretty big if they're raw, but yeah, 100 gigs, you can store a lot of stuff in here for 100 gigs. Like some pretty big backups, like, yeah, 100 gigs is a lot. Well, it's enough, but it's $2.03 per month. So it's, yeah, 2.3% per gig. So that's how you can do it up to the first 50 terabytes. If you don't know what a terabyte is 1024 gigabytes. All right, so that means 1024 times 100. I should have done the same thing, which is 102,000. Oh, actually it's 50. It's 50 times 1024 times 50, which is 51,200 gigabytes. Will give you that's how much space you got to fill for your cost to go down. And then as you go up, the next 450 terabytes goes down by 0.1 cents, which is pretty interesting. Yeah, so it's cheaper. It's a little bit cheaper as you go way up. But again, it's infinitely scalable. So they just have the max limit, like over 500 terabytes is where you get the cheapest amount from. And again, at scale, at 500 terabytes, this is a pretty, you might be like 0.1 cents. Like that's not enough. It adds up for this many terabytes. It definitely adds up. So let's take a look at intelligent tier. Let's look at intelligent tier. You can see here how there's no price difference. So automatic cost savings for data with unknown changing access patterns. So if you're not sure, this is a safe bet to go with. But look, same price for the first 50 terabytes, same price for the next 450, same exact price again for the 500 and over. Infrequent access, all storage this is the infrequent access price per gig, and we'll look at standard IA in a second. So that's cheaper. So that's only like 1.25 cents instead of 2.3 cents. So you can see the price difference between the like on demand standard tier and the infrequent access. A lot cheaper. And then you have to pay again for you have to pay for that automation. You have to pay for that overhead. So this is where the increased cost comes in. So the storage is the same, but the increased cost comes in that you are paying less than a cent. You're paying a quarter of a cent per 1,000 objects. So you pay per object. It does not matter how big that object is. You're paying per object. So if you have 1,000 5 terabyte files, or if you have 1,000 0-byte files, you are paying the same price. You're paying a quarter of a cent per month for each 1,000 items. So it would take you 4,000 objects, 4,000 individual items for you to be paying 1 cent in the monitoring cost. So that is a little bit of pricing there. Standard IA, see how it goes down from 2.3 cents to 1.25 cents. So a lot cheaper for this. Same thing for one zone. A single zone is only a cent instead of 1.25 cents. It's only 1 cent. So super cheap per gig per month. So this is per gigabyte of data per month. Glacier, look at this. It is 0.4 cents a month. So it's not even half a cent for per gig. And again, it says retrieval options from 1 minute to 12 hours. We'll look at the pricing for that in a second. And then Glacier Deep Archive, look at this. Look how cheap that is. Look how many zeros are in here now. Like, it's so cheap. It's so cheap. That's accessed once or twice a year and can be restored within 12 hours. So just some options there for you. You can see the price does change, and you can do some calculations to figure out what's best for you. Request and data retrievals, the way that you pay for these, we're not going to look at these as in depth, but we're going to look at the way they charge you for data retrievals. And so they charge you per 100 requests. So these are some of the verbs that you can do. You can kind of list the information that's there. You can put, which means you can put information into the bucket. You can copy stuff. You can post stuff up there. And so each of these requests, every 1,000 requests will cost you 0.5 cents. 0.5 cents, not a whole cent. This is not 5 cents. This is 0.5 cents, and it's per 1,000 requests. So every request you'll pay this. So it'll take a lot of these to get up to 1 cent. And then you have some other verbs. So to get things and to select things, it's a little bit cheaper, a lot cheaper actually. So this can get a little, this piece of it is so cheap that like I wouldn't stress about like memorizing this right now. But just I want you to see that it's really what I want you to see is that this is charged per request, like per group of requests. So per 1,000 requests is how they charge you for the request and data retrievals. Here's the data transfer someone asked about before. This is the amount of data that's going in and out. So from Amazon S3 into Amazon S3 from internet. So data that's going into S3 that's from the internet, you don't pay for. You don't pay for at all data in. So to get your data into S3, you don't have to pay for any of that data. That's great. But what you can pay for is the data out, which is up to 1 gig per month, is nothing. So you're not going to hit a gig. You're not, like it actually takes a fair amount for you to hit a gig. Well, I'm not saying you're not going to hit a gig, but it's unlikely that you alone will hit a gig unless you have a site that's getting a ton of traffic, or you're just handing people files, or every day you are downloading, giant files, like lots of them. Probably won't hit it. But then after that, it becomes 9 cents per gig. After the first gig, for the next 10 gigs, basically, and then it kind of goes up from there. Data out from Amazon S3 to different places. So out to the internet is this, but data leaving S3 and going out to different AWS services costs differently. So the CloudFront, which we're going to talk about on Wednesday, is $0 to go out. And then each of the regions is is a different amount because of how far the data has to go. Interesting pricing model there. And then management and replication. So whenever you are replicating that data and stuff, you don't even have to worry about this, to be honest, right now. You don't have to worry about this right now, but this is just another way for them to charge you for something. But again, lots of confusing ways for to make it difficult to calculate your true costs. But I can almost guarantee for most situations, a lot of these charges are going to be non-existent, because again, you got to be pushing a certain amount of data to get here. What's the cost? Store data is pretty cheap. Data egress is where they really sing with the cost. Yeah, yes, data egress is where they sing you like that. Here is where they get you. Where were we? That the transmission of data is this data transfer is where it can kind of hurt. 9 cents is not nothing. People pushing big data, it can get pretty costly, and more so these requests, even though it's really small, these requests can add up. They can add up depending on what you're doing. Yeah, it was a lot. It used to be a lot. They dropped it. I know it used to be substantial. Because I remember being super surprised at seeing the AWS. I forgot what I was doing, but I got to see an AWS bill for who was it? It was a big company. It was like for like a department at like GE or something. Like, and I got to see a bill, and like first off, it was astronomical. But it was like for like one department. And I was really surprised. The things that I thought were going to cost a lot, yeah, I was very surprised. It was valuable though. Let's see. Are the Northern California prices for storage pricing more expensive? Is there more tech companies that utilize S3? Supply and demand driving costs? So I actually think it has to do with so I think part of it has to do with where the main hub for these services are, and how far things have to travel. and how much data, like how far they have to push stuff through their pipeline. I also think like, so I think some of these prices are interesting because like S3, like a lot of the services, S3 kind of started out of Northern Virginia, and like for up until like very recently, there were some interesting caveats to all of this because of where like such a majority of S3 things lived, even though S3 is a global service. So we're actually going to sign in real quick because we're going to sign in later. Anyway, S3 is actually a global service. And what that means is you're not going to be specifying a region here. So Authy. And all this is gonna make a little more sense once we get in here and start building some stuff out in here. What time is it? Oh, cool. Perfect time. All right, S3, let's head over. And y'all should kind of get logged into, but you can see here, S3 drops in as a global service. It does not require a region selection, but the infrastructure and the stuff was built, at first it was all built in mainly in US East 1, and that provided some very interesting I wouldn't say computing concerns, but functionality concerns and like things that they were kind of bound by because of that. And I think that's where the original pricing came from, but I don't know why. I don't know. It probably has to do with regulations and stuff and the cost to run a data center, and Cali probably costs more than it does in Virginia, to be 100% honest, due to probably I'm all this is conjecture right now, probably due to kind of the environmental regulations in Cali. Maybe that's it. It seems like something that might matter, but I don't know. Work had to back up 30 terabytes from one cloud provider into another for redundancy reasons, ended up costing thousands of dollars. Yep, obviously that's not most people, but shows you how costs can add up. I think one of the biggest things I want to talk about with the cloud is I want people to know is that like there's been this thing that where people are like, oh, the cloud is just like way cheaper. No, it's not. No, it's, I mean, for it's cheaper upfront cost for you and I. For us common folk, we can get into some serious computing for cheaper. There's a lot of things you can do to make it pretty cheap, but you're paying perpetually for these things. Larger companies who have the funds and the ability to upfront pay for computing power, pay for servers, to pay for data center space, things like that. It could absolutely be cheaper, like much cheaper for them to not use cloud services. So I want everyone to know that is a misnomer. That is a myth, that the cloud is cheaper. Again, a lot of stuff is cheap, but it also can add up, especially if you don't know what you're doing. There are people who get paid. There are people who don't know how to implement anything technically, but get paid a lot of money to help organizations optimize their AWS costs or their cloud costs. Because again, someone has to know this stuff. Someone has to know the little things about S3 storage classes and how to properly like figure those things out and all that stuff. So what's up, Colonel Panic? Welcome to the channel. Good to have you. Thank you so much for Twitch Prime sub. Good to have you. Really good to have you. Let's see. Slightly shifted their pricing towards charging for extra services like logging and monitoring. Yeah, I think so too. Moving towards premium tier. I want to have a Boba Cat. I want to have a longer discussion about the video game skins and stuff. But yeah. It actually is very similar. Data for a startup is a shit ton. It is. Yeah, so it can get pretty interesting. But again, S3 is really nice because of its ease of use and durability, and it's pretty dope. All right, so the last two more things real quick that we're gonna talk about. It should be three things actually, but two more things. Object versioning. You are able to retain multiple versions of an object in one bucket. So if I have a file called, if I have a file called risque picture.jpg, where I'm saving risque pictures, if I get an update to that risque picture, maybe I take, a riskier picture of myself that I want to save up there with the same name. I can push that, and you can enable the S3 bucket to save versions of files. Why would you want to do this? It is so that you do not lose data. If you're worried about the possibility of losing, not in Amazon losing it, but overwriting data that you may need in the future or something like that, you can save those versions. What that means is you can go in and see the versions of a file, and you can actually revert back to an older version of a file point in time. This is just like look at the version history you have here in what's this thing called, in Google Drive. I can go back to earlier versions of this thing. You can do the same thing in Amazon in S3. The problem is, when you do that, make sure you understand that you are paying each of those versions is data that's taking up space that you're paying for. You are paying for that data to sit there. So I've seen people, quadruple even more of their bill because they didn't know what object versioning was. They were saving tons of files in the cloud, but there were things that they were updating, like things that were getting processing batch jobs, which updated the same files. We'll push them in there, and you've got different copies of all these files, and you're paying for all of that storage. Now again, still fairly cheap, and tripling someone's AWS bill for S3 may be like going from $3 to $9, but it is an increase in cost, so just be aware of that. It's pretty important. Any questions about versioning? I appreciate that. I definitely appreciate that, Colonel Panic. Thank you so much. Thank you, YGBSM. Y'all are so kind to me. So kind. I really do. Also, again, I appreciate y'all hanging out with me on this holiday Monday. I know that if old Aaron will be like, well, I got class on the holiday, I'm out. And I know that. I put out a poll to possibly move it to Friday, but I also know people are like, if I got class on Friday, I'm out. So keep it here. People will catch up when they need to catch up. But that's object versioning. Last two things is permissions and lifecycle policies is the first thing we're going to talk about. Is so to manage your objects so that they are stored cost effectively throughout their lifecycle. That's what lifecycle policies do. They allow you to manage your objects so that they are stored cost effectively throughout their lifecycle. And this is kind of what this is something that you can set up. This is kind of what the infrequent acts, not the infrequent acts, this is what the intelligent tier kind of sets up for you, but you can put in these policies in place to say, all right, once the file, like I can put, maybe I'm storing, maybe every day I have a bunch of servers that are putting backups inside of S3 automatically. I can put in a policy saying, all right, I want these backups available for 2 weeks, because maybe it's something we want available instantly, but automatically for me, AWS, go ahead and move these files down to infrequent access after 2 weeks. And so, AWS, these lifecycle policies will take control, and after 2 weeks, it'll move it down to there. And you can say, all right, and after another 4 weeks in IA, go ahead and move these files down to Glacier for me, and then it'll move it to Glacier for you. So it allows you to manage the life of a file as it exists inside of S3, which is kind of nice. So this is kind of your manual way of doing the intelligent tiering. Is like, hey, I'm going to put in these manual policies that will allow S3 to kind of take action against files depending on the parameters that I put around them. So that is a it's an important thing. Lifecycle policies can save you a lot of money. This was a much bigger thing before intelligent tiering came out. Intelligent tiering is actually relatively new, but I found that intelligent tiering works surprisingly well. But if you don't want to pay that little bit of overhead, this is something that you absolutely can implement. You can also use them in tandem. You don't have to just pick one or the other. You can use them in tandem for different things that you're trying to do. You can set some buckets to intelligent tiering, some that you have manual lifecycle policies on. It is absolutely a tool that you will have to use in the future. And then the last thing are actual permissions and policies, but we'll see that during this part. I used to work in a medical institution that had 4 petabytes of raw data, and they had to retain for 2 years because of laws about medical data. Exactly. Exactly. And so what do you do with that? Like it's a bunch of just more petabytes of data. Like what do you do with all that data? You stick it in Glacier, and hope no one comes back for it. But it's super frustrating. Like, I mean, I get it though. Data is very important. Data is very important, and like, yeah, data is extremely important, and keeping it around can be pretty important. I get it. It's just frustrating to deal with. Oh, and it was on tapes. Even better. Even so, yeah. So even, I mean, so tapes. That makes, like, that is a cost-effective option. Like, I mean, honestly, Amazon probably has a significant number of things on tapes as well that they might be just maybe that's why it takes 12 hours. Maybe they have to have some person in the data center go find some tapes to kind of put stuff back on. 1 petabyte disk, 6 petabyte tape. Whew. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I worked in data centers and stuff, but like I never really thought about how much raw data was in there, but like because I was dealing with everyone's data individually, but like that's just so much. It's so intense. Like, and also when people are talking about tapes, I'm gonna show you what these tapes are. These are tape drive. These are a form of storage, similar to your similar to a cassette, to be honest, like an audio cassette tape, but they're used to kind of store lots of data on, like old data that's gonna just be sitting around. Tape drives are a thing. Yeah, they're a thing. The reason why people use them to store lots of data is because they're cheap, for one. It's a pretty cheap storage option. Yeah, onto magnetic tape, again, just like your cassette tape. And it's, again, for offline archival storage. So to have somewhere that is offline, safe from the internet, that can be retrieved, later. But again, the reason is stability. So stability and cost. Cost is the biggest reason. But for how long, like once on that tape, it's kind of just going to sit there. But yes, they are absolutely still used. They can retain data for 30 years or more. So like that's a big deal. But yep. Colonel Panic, thank you so much for the gifted subs. You are a VIP/VIP. What letter are you missing? KRNEL Panic. There we go. You are a VIP of this channel. Thank you so much. I appreciate the love. I appreciate the support. Thank you very much. All right, so let's go ahead and let's get, I'm gonna get you. We are gonna be out of here. We're gonna be out of here at 9 o'clock. I'm calling it right now. You're gonna have 30 minutes back. We're gonna be out. So let's log in AWS and let's get set up with static hosting. So we're gonna first we'll just put some stuff in a bucket real quick, just so you can see it. Again, this will be a concept that'll be fairly familiar to you. We're not gonna do anything from the command line tonight because command line stuff comes on Wednesday along with CloudFront. That'll be pretty dope. But that'll be fun. That'll make us feel a little cooler. But again, you've probably done stuff. You've dragged and dropped things before. We're gonna just walk through the process of creating a bucket. We'll put some stuff in it, just so we can see. Maybe we'll see if we can. Actually, we'll wait till on Wednesday. We'll try to set up a scenario where we can see the eventual consistency pattern and see it in action. I think I have a way to kind of do that. To kind of really show it to you. But yeah, we'll just create a bucket real quick. Feel free to create a bucket. Like I said, buckets don't cost any money at all. And if you just have a couple of, you pay for per gig, but like files are tiny. Like if you want to just stick some files in there, like I said, you might not even be paying, you might be paying like a penny if you just leave crap in there for a long time. But yeah, feel free to create a bucket. Remember, it's a global namespace. I have some buckets in here already, just for some things we've done. Like all my buckets are academy.mastermind.io. We're going to be setting up a static site tonight. Academy.mastermind.io is in fact a static site. So is Mastermind.io. Like this is a static site served out of an S3 bucket. I pay almost $0 per month to host this site. Like I pay like $2 or something to host this site. And you can do the same just as easily, and I'm going to show you how easy that is. I have a bunch of other ones. Like, so here, these are all my wedding pictures. All of my wedding pictures are stored here because there are a lot of them. But again, it was cheap to just stick them here, and I don't have to worry about it. It's something that's important to me and my wife. So yeah, they're here, but they're not publicly. They are publicly available because we were showing them people. I'll give you guys a link. You can go through them if you want, or let me ask my wife first. I'm not gonna give you a link yet. Sure. Be More Black Tech. I did help run a tech meetup here in Baltimore called the Baltimore Black Techies. So we host their website out of here. Bootcamp stuff. We've done some serverless stuff for Coding Coffee. That stuff is here. Mastermind.io. This was an old company I tried to start called Stack Foundry. But yeah, just a bunch of buckets in here that I've grabbed. I have 11 buckets. You can pick them up at will, but again, the namespaces are permanent. So be careful with those. Not be careful, but like, you might not be able to get what you want. So let's create. Yeah, I'm gonna ask. We accidentally. So it's really funny. There are thousands of files in there. One time, like the very first bootcamp we ever did, we used the command line to pull a file down. For some reason, there's a single meme in there. There's one meme in the whole bucket, and it was an inappropriate meme about, like, I don't know what it was about, but it was inappropriate. And it was the one file. We pulled a file at random. All we were seeing was file names. Pulled a random file, and it's still in there. I'm gonna find it. But it was weird. I was like, this is I'm a fan of inappropriate memes. So it was funny though. So be careful with that. I should actually pull off this public thing, but again, do it later. Not a big deal. Let's create a bucket. Very simple. Let's just create the bucket. So all you got to do, click services, type in S3, head over to scalable storage in the cloud. There we go. We're here. And now I want you all, as you're going around the console, to start taking in the differences between the services. Like, this looks very different from what we've already seen with both IAM and EC2. So we've touched 3 major services now, and they all look completely different. This looks way different than EC2, which I'll open up another tab, and like, look how different this go up. There we go. Look how different this looks. It doesn't look the same at all. Different options and different clickable options, so it's pretty interesting. Once you get to Lambda, I love that. Lambda is my favorite. I know. I know. That'll be pretty confusing, but I don't really deal with Lambda in the console. There's a lot I don't deal with in the console, so that might be as far as looking different. All right, I'll wait till we get there. I'm gonna click on it in a little bit. You've piqued my interest. So when you're in S3, to create a bucket, real simple. Go ahead and click that create bucket tab right here. Now, the first thing it tells you is bucket name. It says, hey, go ahead and give me a name for this bucket that you want. And this is essentially, the storage place that you want. So it says enter a DNS compliant bucket name. Now, for most people, that might not make any sense. You might be like, I don't know what that means. Again, the rules for this are AWS S3. Naming rules, naming convention. See, naming convention is a better word than naming rules, but I'll share this with you. I will also add this in the Google Classroom for you all. Let's add that now before I forget, because the naming conventions, it is specific. You can't name your bucket anything, and it'll tell you what's wrong. No classwork, create material, S3 naming conventions, link, add link. All right, there we go. That's there. In case you want to check it out, the naming requirements, between 3 and 63 characters long. So again, like I said, it actually used to be up to 255 inside, if the bucket, when it was inside of US East 1, it can only be lowercase, numbers, periods, and dashes. So it looks like there's no underscores. Each label in the bucket name must start with a lowercase letter or number. It's gonna be lowercase letter or number, so it can't start with a dash or a period. The bucket name cannot contain underscores, end with dashes, or have consecutive periods, or use dashes adjacent to periods. Very interesting. So I cannot do something like Aaron dot dash Brooks. I can't do something like that, which is nice. The bucket name cannot be formatted as an IP address either. So although you can put numbers and dots, you cannot format it like an IP address. So the way that you access the classroom is to type in classroom. There you go. The codes are also in the panels at the bottom, but click on that. You can get into whichever class you want to get into, or all three if you'd like. All right, so here we go. Let's go ahead and enter in our bucket name. Our bucket name is going to be let's call this mastermind dash horizons dash May dash 2020. I use dashes. Call your bucket whatever you want, but again, please be kind and don't go grab every single mastermind name you can think of. Again, it's not a big deal to me. I'm not gonna grab. I'll make it work no matter what. And we're gonna learn on Wednesday why it doesn't really matter. This can matter, or it mattered a little more before because of when you're hosting websites. The name of your bucket mattered if you wanted to get to it easily. There are other ways to do this now that didn't exist when this first kind of was a thing, because S3 has been around for a long time, so a lot of changes have happened. It's been out since like 06 or something, so it's a pretty old service. But you can choose the region, and so I'm gonna leave mine where it is, and then you can copy settings from another bucket. It's probably your first bucket. Don't sweat it. No need to copy anything. Just go ahead and click next. Now, there are a lot of options. There are a surprising amount of options here as we kind of click through. We'll talk about them. We're not going to talk about all of them. We'll lightly touch every single one, but we're not going to go in depth on all of them. So, versioning. This is one of the last things we talked about. If you want your bucket to be able to save versions of files, you can click this. Now, this is very important. Very, very important. Once you enable versioning, you can enable versioning at any time. If I don't enable it now, I can enable it later. Once you enable versioning, you cannot disable versioning. So if you need to disable versioning, you have to remove everything from the bucket and remove the bucket and hope that you can get it back again for you to disable it. So very important to know. Very, very important to know. You cannot disable versioning once it's turned on, but you can turn it on at any time. Server access logging. This is just logging. It'll log requests to your bucket. If you need to see what is making requests to your bucket, you can enable this, and that will save it into like another bucket. But yeah, it'll save it into another bucket. Usually people have like a logs bucket. You can give yourself a tag. So again, tags, just like EC2, are it's metadata for Amazon resources that'll allow you to either track it. So this one, they say use it to track project costs or to easily be able to find it programmatically. So you can add multiple keys and values here. Object level logging, don't worry about that right now. This is just more ways for you to kind of get some insights on what's going on. And then default encryption. So S3 buckets do allow you to encrypt data. You can encrypt data. There's two to three different, I think it's still two different types of encryption. We're not going to dive into those yet. We're actually going to talk about those on Wednesday. That's the only reason we're going to talk about them tonight. If you were someone who's like, what about encryption? But you can encrypt the data that's in S3 can in fact be encrypted. And so you can enable that here, and it'll give you your options right here. Once you do, we'll do the advanced setting drop down here, and object lock. So permanently allow objects in this bucket to be locked. So if you don't want files, if you don't want objects to be changed, you can kind of lock them, change or delete it. And then CloudWatch request metrics. We haven't talked about CloudWatch yet, but this is just more monitoring. There's a lot of things in here for monitoring and to know what's going on. So you can just leave, you don't need to click on anything, leave everything as is by default and go to next. Don't change anything. All right, any questions about that first page? Downside to versioning, yeah, growing data. Downside is simply that you have to pay for all the saved versions, so increased cost because you're paying per gigabyte. But yeah, it can increase a lot. There are I know of jobs like server jobs that are running that places that have worked that would run and would update 20 to 30 gigs of data every 2 or 3 hours, and would update them into an S3 bucket, and like that would happen a couple times a day. You're talking about and there were a lot of files. It was 20 or 30 gigs. I think it was 20 or 30 gigs. I'm trying to remember how much it was. It was a not an amazing amount of data, but like a lot of data. But the problem was it was small files. It was like 20, 30 gigs of like relatively small files. And so it doesn't really matter if they're small, but it's just a lot of items, and that much stuff, being updated a couple times a day. Not even a couple times, like, lots of times a day, over the course of a long period of time can really increase your costs. So if you go through all the steps of moving versioned S3 buckets data out and into a new S3 version with stable, we have a bunch of orphaned version data. That's a good question. So you actually won't be able to do that. What you'll be able to do if you go through that process of getting all the versions and stuff, like, as first off, that's already a very time-consuming process. It is not an easy process to do. If you move it to a data that to a bucket that does not have versioning, the problem is you can only have one. If versioning's off, you can only have one version of the same file name. So you like whatever one you put in latest, whatever file you put in latest will have. It'll like whatever you put in latest will overwrite everything else, basically. So you have the most recent version, correct? So unless you give them all like unique names, like timestamps or something, but then you'll just have a bunch of files. So the next slide, talking about permissions. By default, S3 blocks access to the bucket from anywhere. Like, it just blocks access to the bucket, so it blocks all public access. So check this out. Block all public access. When we're talking about permissions and access, you should already be thinking about IAM just in the back of your head and kind of how it relates to this. But by default, that's selected. Leave it there for right now. Block all public access, and there's some options down here. Don't worry about that either. Just click next. It'll give you a little summary here. So we actually didn't change anything. We gave the bucket a name, and then we just kept clicking next, and go ahead and create that bucket. All good. And it'll go ahead and it'll take just a bit. And now I have 12 buckets. And what do we call this one? We call this one Mastermind Horizons May 2020. And just take a look at what's here. Buckets and objects are not public. So it's letting me know the things in here are not public. It's letting me know which region, and it's letting me know when the date was, when it was created. Great, super nice. But let's go ahead and click on the bucket. Click on it. And now I'm in an empty space. This bucket is empty. Upload new objects to get started. So it tells you I can upload an object. I can set properties, set object permissions. So if I wanted to upload things, I would just click upload and I would start to upload. I could drag and drop right here. So I don't really think I have anything on this computer. Do you have any like wallpapers or something I can put in here? I'll go into my files. Oh, here we go. The wallpaper I have here. Do I have anything else? Something more fun. Downloads. Where was that? All right, I'm gonna copy this in. So Firefox wallpaper. So I'm copying my 2.8 megabyte wallpaper into S3. Again, like Dropbox, I'm dragging and dropping it in there. And yeah, it says to upload a file larger than 160 gigabytes, use the AWS CLI, AWS SDK, or Amazon S3 REST API. That's what it says right here. Now, this is important. This is why very particularly in this course, or at least for this service, we are learning next time we have some time focused on the CLI, the command line interface, because to do things of a certain size, you have to use the CLI. And for S3, I actually think you're going to prefer to use the CLI to do things. It's a lot easier to do things from the CLI than it is from the interface here. So it's here, it lets me know what file I want to upload. I could add as many files as I want and go ahead and I can click upload. I could have clicked next, Next would have given me multiple options on like the permissions of this file and like who could access it and things like that. You can have individual permissions, you know, for files, but now this thing is here. It is here. It's available. It is available for me to get. But let's say the way that this works is each of these objects ends up getting a URL, so you can access these things through URL. So if you click on the object, lets me know how big it is, and then all this information here, this is a lot of that metadata that we're talking about for object storage. This key is really important. The key is super important. That is the file, which is that key. Next time when we get to the CLI, it'll make a little more sense. It's actually interesting that they do this. Right here, they say create a folder. There are actually no folders in object storage. This is a very confusing, this really blew my mind the first time. Like, it's super confusing to me. But object storage, there aren't actually any folders. That's not how it's structured. This is not a file system like block storage. It's not like your computer file system. But they know that everyone thinks in terms of folders. It's a good way for you to mentally organize things in your head, so they allow you to create folders. But if you create a folder, like if I create a folder here called test folder and I save it, this folder itself, this is an object. This is its own object. It looks like a folder. It looks great, but that has a key of test. It is its own object, and anything I put in that folder, it won't actually be in the folder. It'll be the key prefixed with this name. So like if I put Firefox wallpaper in the test folder, it's not actually in there. It'll just be a new object with a key of test/Firefox wallpaper. Not crazy important right now, just something to kind of, I think it's something important to know about. Like I don't like that they put this folder thing here, but even though like it's good for you, it's not a real thing. The folder isn't actually a thing. That just creates another object for you here. I don't know what they do about paying for it though. I don't know if like that goes into your quotas for things. I don't know if that counts as an object, but it is it might just be a key placeholder rather than an object itself. But you can see here, it actually says this folder is a single object of 0 bytes. Remember, we could have 0 bytes files. This test folder is in fact one object of 0 bytes. So it's it's an interesting concept there. But we put a file here. We can put a lot of files here. And if I click on this URL, you can see I actually cannot access it. When I click on that URL, you can't access it. Why can't we access it? Can't access it because we chose that nothing in this bucket was publicly accessible. Let's go back. And remember on that screen that where the buckets were, what it said was, for Mastermind Horizons May 2020, bucket and objects are not public, can't get them. So when you do click on that, you click on that thing, your bucket gets a URL no matter what. That's what that DNS stuff is for. But which is mastermind-horizons-may 2020.s3.amazon.com. So every bucket, I'm gonna paste this in because you guys are gonna be able to click on this shortly tonight. But look at that. Everyone's bucket is going to have that URL. So not Mastermind Horizons May 2020, but it's going to be your bucket name .s3.amazonaws.com. That is an exam question. It may not be on the Cloud Practitioner exam. That is absolutely an exam question. When you get farther along, I've seen it multiple times. What like people like they'll ask you, what is the URL for an S3 bucket, and it'll have a bunch of different options. They'll say like your bucket.s3.amazonaws.com. It'll say your bucket. It'll say s3.amazonaws.com/your bucket. So you gotta know which one that is, but it's your bucket.s3.amazonaws.com. And then every item that you want to access is the key right here. So Firefox wallpaper.png. I get this nice access denied. Again, I cannot access this file because Amazon is in fact doing its job. So pretty simple concept so far. Just kind of a storage place, just like Dropbox, just like a thumb drive. We can put it on there. If we wanted to actually get it, it's not publicly available to the web, but I could download this file. If I want to click on this, I could download this from here because I'm logged in. So I could download this file, no problem. So, and it does download to my computer. You know, I do have the file here. So you can access things that are not publicly available to the web. And so that's controlled via IAM. My user that I'm logged in as is an administrator user, so I can download that. But I can set some things up for the bucket or for this object by itself. So I could make this publicly available, I believe, without doing anything to the bucket. Let's go to permissions. I might have to change the whole bucket. Let's do this first. And this kind of goes into our static web hosting that we're about to start talk about in a little bit. These, because you can just serve files out of them, you can in fact serve static web files out of these buckets. And what I'm about to do right now is going to lead into that. So these are permissions for the entire bucket. And actually, no, let me go back to just this file. If I want to change the permissions for this file, what can I do? Right click it. Again, I never do it like this either. So I don't know. Click the little arrow. So you highlight it and go to actions and go to, so look at the options you have available to you. Look at this. I can open it, I can download it, I can get total size, change storage class. This is where I would go to if I wanted to change it to a different storage class, so it would be cheaper. I'm gonna go to actions and I'm going to go to, let's see. So from, okay, yeah, I need to actually change. I thought I could do this though. We'll click on it. Permissions. Well, this is gonna be for the whole bucket, I think. I think I can make it to just this public access, this bucket turned on, preventing read object. Actually, no, I'm not gonna click this. I wanted to check something. I'm not gonna do it because I want to show you how to host the website out of here, and it'll make more sense when I contextualize. I don't want to change stuff before we get going. So, before we get into before we get into serving a website from here, does anyone have any questions so far? So I do want you to click around, to play around and see what you have access to. I want you to know so far, we'll do the tangible takeaways at the end, but while we're in here looking around, I want you to know that, that to create a bucket, all you got to do is click the big create, but the big blue create bucket button. Pretty simple. And by default, you can kind of keep everything the same. It has a lot of options in there to be more granular, but you can just go through. You have to select a name that adheres to the standards, and that is DNS compliant, and that is unique. It must be unique. If any of you want to see, you can go try to create one of these. You can try to create an academy.mastermind.io and it will not work for you. But I want you to also know that by default, everything in the bucket is not available to the public by default. So if you want to host a website from S3, you must make it available to the public. That is a very important concept. Because it's so important, I pasted you the exact instructions on how to do this in the classroom, and it actually might be good to go through those together, so that we can set this up. Static bucket policies. There are permissions are one of the toughest things inside of Amazon. They're so confusing sometimes to figure out how to go through. There's a lot of words even in this, but let's just run through really quick and get our static website set up. So ask the questions first and then we'll go through it. Have you ever seen where you can host S3 storage locally with a free NAS application? No, I've never seen that. That's very interesting. I'm not sure. Does anyone review the files you upload? Like at Amazon? No. No, there's no one on the other end like looking at the files. You can upload whatever you want. So if there are things that are legal, they might have some stuff in the background that may be able to catch that stuff, but no, no one is reviewing. As far as I know, no one's reviewing the files that you upload. You could upload whatever you want. There are people, I can't tell you how many times I've been on like Reddit or somewhere, and someone will like be like, hey, I posted, I have this like pirated thing that's just sitting in this S3 bucket, go grab it until I take it down. It's pretty interesting. But yeah, I was curious if it's just another block storage. So like I said, that this object store is backed, like your files are being stored on a hard drive somewhere. S3 object store is really a layer on top of that, a database layer on top of that that allows for some interesting management. I bet that's what it's doing. I bet it's just using your FreeNAS as the actual storage location, but allowing S3 to kind of see it and for you to be able to like manage it as any other object. So yo, what's up, Downright? Second raid of the night. Amazing. I'll let everyone from Dow get through their you know, their ad that they must watch because Twitch makes you watch it. But what's up, everyone? What's up, Richard Hurst? What's up, Mostly Not? What's up, MG? Oh, MG, you're always here. Hey, everyone say hello to Dow. Shout out to Dow. So, or maybe it's do right. I was looking at it the other day, and let me know. I feel like I've heard someone else call you Dow, so I called you Dow. But then when I looked at your name, I was like, maybe it's do right. That makes a lot of sense. It makes a whole lot of sense. But let me know. I would love to know. Also, how was your stream? What'd you guys do tonight? We're finishing up some stuff. We're about to just show you how to host a simple static website with Amazon Simple Storage Service, Amazon S3. I did not do that right. Oh yeah, there we go. But yeah, that was like way more. Probably hates the things that I do on this channel because I don't care about security quite as much as he does. Definitely smart dude, does some dope stuff. Very passionate about a lot of different things in regards to security. Something that, again, I'm probably getting hacked as we speak. Not by Dow, but yeah, by someone, because I'm not. Yeah, okay, gotcha. I was like, it was crazy how it was an epiphany. Like, I just took it as Dow, right? Because I'm pretty sure I've heard Prime say it. Maybe I heard someone say Dow, and so I just took it as Dow. And I was looking at it the other day, I was like, do right. That just it also makes sense for like your channel, like what you're doing there. So really appreciate the raid. Thank you for coming through as we finish up some S3 stuff, some AWS stuff tonight. Okay. Actually, are you a VIP? Did I make you VIP on here? I did not. Here we go. VIP. You are now a VIP of the channel. I like to use the VIP command because it's the one command that I remember. I'm really bad at remembering those things. But real quick, we're going to set this up. Now, static website. What is a static website? It's that unchangeable. It's nothing dynamic is happening on the server. It's that HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Remember, we grabbed some HTML5. We were on HTML5 up. We were on this website when we built the web server. When we built the web server, we grabbed stuff from here. These are static websites that you can grab. And actually, well, I'll show you my site in a second. But I'm going to grab one from here. Go ahead, feel free to download these locally to your computer. So before we download it to a server, we don't have a server right now. We are simply going to download these to our computers. What's up, Mostly Not? What's up, Red Rambles? Thank you so much for the follows. Good to have you. So last time we downloaded Hyperspace, I'm going to simply download Fractal. Let's download this blue Fractal one. Free download. I'm going to download it locally. It's downloaded. I'm going to put it in my downloads. Save. This is a static website. They're going to deliver me HTML and CSS to serve a website. HTML being the structure of the web page, CSS being the design and the look and the feel of the page. So we have all the files here, and this is a website. Let's get this hosted in an S3 bucket because it's pretty easily. Oh yeah, I downloaded it from html5up.net. You can grab any of these, literally anyone that's on here. It'll work the exact same. So find one that you like, find one that looks good, and go ahead and click that free download button and download a zip file. It's gonna download a zip file for you, but that's all you need to do. So make your bucket, download one of these files, and let's figure out what to do next. What's up, Dead Ant 2? Dead Ant 2. I hope it's Dead Ant and not dead. Well, it's dead. And not Dant 2. Welcome. What's up, Shadow Moonag? Welcome to the channel. Thank you for the follow. Good to have you. Really appreciate you here. Okay, I already lied to you. I said we're gonna be out by 9. Big mistake. But again, let's go 9:15, 9:18, 9:18. I'm calling it 9:18. That should show you how simple Amazon Simple Storage Service can be. It can actually be quite complicated, to be honest. But yeah, because we're gonna talk about things next time like CORS issues and all kinds of extra stuff. but let's do it. So I'm going to remove this file from this bucket because I want to use this bucket for us to put this in. I could leave it in here if I wanted, but I'm gonna make it as clean as possible. So I'm gonna delete this. And remember, deletions, updates and deletions are what kind of consistency are those? They are eventually consistent. So there's a chance that although I just deleted it, and right here I do not see this file, there's a chance that if I was trying to access this programmatically or you know, from a different browser or something, that I may still see that file there. It may still be there. Again, most of the time it's pretty instant, but it's possible that I could see that file there. It's eventually consistent. Okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this folder here, the folder that I downloaded. I downloaded this HTML5 up zip. I'm going to extract it. So it's a zipped up, it's the zip files are, you know, packaged up, compressed, you know, a folder with a bunch of things in it, or maybe just files itself. So I'm gonna extract it here, and it's gonna give me a folder. So whether on your Mac or something, I think on Macs it should be the same thing. Just like right click it and click extract here. Maybe you can double click on it or something, but this will extract that zip file for you, and it'll deliver you a simple folder just like this. And what I want you to do is I want you to click on that folder and see these files. So once you see index.html, remember when we talked about web servers, the file that a web server looks for is an index file. Now I know we're not setting up a web server, but we are setting up something that's going to serve a website, and so the things that are running this are going to be looking for an index file. So I want you to get to the point where you've unzipped that file and you're looking at all of these files. No matter what theme you got, it'll have assets, images, index. It might have some extra files, but it'll have these things at least. Make sure you can see an index.html, and that is where you're gonna need to be. So once you get there, all I want you to do is click upload, and we're gonna get these files into our S3 bucket. Pretty simple. Something you've probably done before. We're gonna just highlight all of these. I'm gonna copy and paste them. Just gonna put it like this. Works pretty fast. Tells me all the things that are gonna get uploaded. And now what I'll do is, so I'll show you what it looks like. We didn't click through next before. I'll click next, and what it'll allow us to do is set some of the permissions for this. Right now, I want you to actually just click upload. I don't want you to go through the next stuff. All I want you to do is click upload on the left. Get the files up there. That's all I want you to do. Hopefully this doesn't break my stream, you know, because I'm using up some of my bandwidth here. But it uploads. And now these files are immediately available. Why are they immediately available? You know, we're hammering in those concepts. They're immediately available because all new puts to our bucket are read after write consistency. They're immediately available to us. And so our website files are right here. This is all you need right here. And we have our stuff right where we want it. Now, this is the hard part. Index.html is the file that you're generally going to get to when you want to access a website. But check this out. Click on it. Again, I get access denied. We know why we get access denied. It's not open to the public. But I could permissions, public access. I think I could do it to one file. So on this file, I'm going to say everyone has access to this file. I'll show you what I got here real quick. Go ahead and click on the index.html. Just click on it itself. I click on the actual file. I went to permissions. I went down where it says public access. It says the block public access setting is turned on for this bucket, preventing granting public access. If I go down and I click give public access to everyone, and we want people to be able to read this file. When someone goes to a website, they are getting information. They're requesting to be able to read these files. So I'm gonna click read object here, and I'm only gonna click that one. I'm not gonna click anything else. So I want to give people access. I want to give everyone access to read this object, to know what's in it. And it gives me a little warning here. It says this object will have public access. Everyone will have access to one or all of the following. Read this object. Read and write permissions. So maybe if we did that, but we're only gonna choose this read object one, and I'm gonna click save. All right, and then I get access denied. All right, so it would not let me do this, and it would not let me do this because the bucket itself is not allowing for this. Remember that big checkbox that said block all public access? That's still there. So you could go through that. There is a way to go through and give individual access to certain files, but well, actually we'll do it that way. We'll do it backwards. Not backwards, we'll do it this way. So first what we'll do is we will say, all right, I know that I'm hosting a website and I know permissions need to be changed. And so that link that I sent you all, that I'll send here, that is in the Google Classroom, we'll walk you through those permissions just so you can understand the different things you can think through after we finish this. You can read through and think of the things that you have to set access to. So the first one is edit block public access settings. So, you know, if we want people to be able to access from the public, we need to change that, and it'll tell you the instructions to do it. We're not going to look through all the instructions because it's just going to walk you through getting to this screen, but we're going to go into properties. I think it's properties. Actually it's permissions. Here it goes. It's permissions. And check this out. Block all public access is in fact on. So everything is blocked. If you want to change this, all you got to do is click edit. And you can choose what you want, but I'm just going to uncheck this one, which means it's now not going to be blocking any of these things, and it's going to give people access to this bucket. So you unclick it and choose save, and it says, hey, you are opening up this bucket to everyone. I want to make sure you know what you're doing. I want to make sure you know what's going on. If you're happy with this, if this is something that you intended to do, go ahead and type confirm. So we're going to go ahead and type in confirm here and click confirm. All right, public access settings updated successfully. Okay, first parts first. Now let's go back to our bucket and we'll say, all right, we enable public access. Maybe now we can access this file. So let's check. And we click on this again, access denied. We're like, what just happened here? We just made this accessible to everyone. Why can I not access this file? Well, although now the bucket, so like if I go back to the screen where it was telling us what had access to things, I went back to S3 and I went down to the bucket right here, which says objects can be public. So it says, that's the perfect description right here. Objects can be public. It doesn't say objects are public. It doesn't say public like up here. It says objects have the ability to be public. So that gives me the, you know, I might say, okay, all right, that says objects can be public. How do I make an object public? Well, I'll click this. I'll click this file again. And then there's a make public button here now, which is really nice. And I can click make public. Okay, so now let's see. I made it public. I got a success, whereas I got an access denied the first time. And I'll click this. And look at this. I'm getting a page. It's not what I thought I was going to get, but I did in fact get something back. Nice. And we did download the Fractal thing. And so like, you know, this kind of looks like a website. Just like, okay, it doesn't look like what I want it to look like, but it's cool. Now, this part's not important. If you're a web developer, you might be troubleshooting this. You might inspect, you might say, what's going on with this page? Why isn't everything loading up? And the reason is I right-clicked and went to inspect to take me to my web inspector, my developer tools, and it says, look at all these. The server responded with a status of 403 forbidden. So basically a website, the structure is the HTML file, which we just clicked on. So this is the structure, but it doesn't have any look and feel because those files are not public. The files that this needs to reference so it can look good are not public. And you might say, oh, does that mean I need to go through and make every single file public? That's really annoying. What if I have hundreds of files, thousands of files from a website? That can be really annoying. So you don't have to do that. You don't have to do that. The way that you fix this is through a bucket policy. So bucket policies, these are very similar, if not exactly the same as the policies which we learned about through IAM, through Identity and Access Management. And what this does is it allows us to create a JSON policy to make these files available to people. So This part may seem really confusing, but it's actually it's pretty simple actually. And so that's why I actually provided this link in the classroom, because you're gonna need to refer to this. You're not gonna memorize this. No one memorized it. I refer to this every time I need to do it. And if you scroll down in here, it'll tell you to go do this part. It says add a bucket policy. To make objects in your bucket publicly readable, you gotta write a bucket policy that grants everyone access to this thing. So this looks familiar. Remember we said, the thing that we have here, the principle here is going to be everything has access. They allow access to, this resource. It can do this thing to these resources. And so we can just copy and paste this. So we're going to copy this on this page, and we're going to go stick this in here to copy and paste it. Real nice. It'll paste in. Again, it looks crazy. You might be like, I don't know what all that says. Not important, but you do one step. And that is, I'm hearing stuff. Something going on outside, but it'll be fine. But what I need to do is I need to go ahead and I need to replace example.com with this bucket. So all you got to do is take the name of your bucket. I'll copy and paste it from up here. I'll copy it and I'll paste it right here. And what this is going to do is it's going to set up a policy that says, hey, everything in this bucket, this /star is a wild card for everything. It's going to say everything in this bucket, people can now access public read object. Everyone can read this thing. Like I said, it's not something you have to remember, but what you do need to remember is that there are policies and permissions that have to be enabled for you to host a website, and they're all right here. They're all listed here. It's really just two things. Step one, which is the unblocking public access. Step two, which is to add this bucket policy that we just copied and pasted and just put in your name where it says example.com. It'll walk you through it if you forget this. And this is another thing, but we don't really need, we don't need to do this right now. But as soon as we save this, let's save it. If it is wrong, it will fail to save, just so you know. But it says this public, so now it tells us it has public access. It lets us know that everything in here has public access, and they recommend that you never grant any kind of public access to your S3 bucket. Great. But okay, cool. But now it says public. Here we have this yellow thing that says public now. Now go back to that index.html file, or whatever your HTML file is, your index file, and click on that link now. And look at that. Beautiful. I'm getting all of the beautiful views, and look where it's, it's hosted here. You all could easily go right here if you'd like. And again, all we essentially did was copy some files into a bucket and change a couple permissions, and we were able to do this. Now we're not done yet. We're not done yet. So this works, but when people go to your website, they don't want to type in index.html. That's not something that you want to do. And so right now, like, we don't have our own domain. We'll talk about hooking it up to a domain later, but you could give out your bucket URL as the website. You could host your website from the bucket URL. And if I click this in, it doesn't actually serve because we haven't set the bucket up to really host a website. We've just allowed people to access files from the internet. And so if I go back to index.html, it does in fact load. Now let's truly set this up. You host your Academy site through S3 Simple Storage? Yes. I'll show you what it looks like too. I do host my Academy website and my main business website out of here. So let's go back real quick to the S3 bucket. When you're in your S3 bucket, go to so just click back into your bucket. I'm assuming people are setting off fireworks. I'm gonna assume it's fireworks. It's very loud. It's Baltimore. It could be anything. Oh, it's fireworks for sure. Oh, it's Memorial Day for sure. Fireworks. Nice start of summer. But all you got to do is click on your bucket right here. Head over to management. Gunshot. Gunshots are not they're not a non-occurring occurrence over here. Something you get used to, but those are definitely, fireworks are an even more common occurrence. I actually, I'm surprised that I don't know where people are getting these fireworks from. Like, people will get fireworks everywhere. Like, it's pretty crazy. Like, I only see fireworks during 4th of July, but people have them. They keep them on hand. Okay, so management. All you got to do, no, it's not management. It's permissions. Properties. That'll do it. So click in your bucket at the very top. Click on properties. Look at this. It's a whole big button right here for static website hosting. Click on that thing. Click it. It says disabled at the bottom, but we can enable it. So right here, it'll give you an endpoint, which we already have. And that endpoint says, hey, this is where your site is going to be hosted at. And again, we already had that link, but nothing works with this right now. So if I open another tab, it doesn't work. But go ahead and click use this bucket to host a website. Pretty simple. That's all you got to do. But you have to set up two things. It's asking for index documents. So again, like I said, a web server needs that index file. You can call it whatever you want, but it needs to know what it's looking for. Basically, this index document is asking, it says, hey, when I go to this bucket to serve data out of, what's the first file that I'm going to be hitting? And I can type in index.html. They already have it listed there, but I can type that in. And then error document. So if something's wrong, I could also put in an error document in there that says like, hey, you got to the wrong page or something. I can tell you what it is. I don't have one, but we could put one there if we needed one. So now errors they'll give us their own error page rather than a beautiful error page that we create. And so all you got to do is click that use this bucket, type in index.html, scroll down and click save. And now this will work more like a web server. It'll apply some of the web server logic to it. So now if you grab your URL, so you can actually click back on static web hosting to get your URL. If I click on it, you can now access this website. What can you put in redirection rules? Great question. I'll answer the questions above this in a second. Redirection rules are for things like, let's say I had maybe there were a couple pages on this website. Maybe there was like an about us section, like about dash us section. Redirect rules allow you to do URL to URL redirect. So maybe I changed the name of the about us section to the find out more section or something. And I know people have bookmarked about us. Redirects will allow you to put in redirects that says, hey, when anyone goes to about us, automatically redirect them to, the find more about us section or whatever. So it allows you to redirect one URL to another URL in your bucket, only in your bucket. It allows you to do that. Still allowed, but you can buy from vendors, but aren't allowed to use them, but you can, yeah, okay, that's dumb. Yeah, but I wonder like where, like, I like fireworks. Like, where can I go get some fireworks? That's what I always wondering. Like, I usually pick up the little ones when like 4th of July comes around, because like, everyone's a little bit of a pyromaniac at heart, but yeah, but I never know where to get them any other time. Wasn't The Wire in Baltimore? Yes, The Wire was in Baltimore, one of the greatest TV dramas of all time, but Baltimore is not The Wire. Like, yes, The Wire took place in Baltimore. Things do happen in just like every other city that are Wire-esque, but like it's not The Wire, guys. it's not what you see on TV. It's actually a pretty cool place. I mean, yes, things happen, but, it's a city. All cities are wild. Let's see. Back to Kmart, sir. What is this? I'm gonna go find an abandoned Kmart now. I'm gonna have to now. Okay. I will check Giant. I'm actually might go to Giant right after this. I'm going to get like I said, we're fancy now. My wife's getting her master's in nutrition. She's she's pretty dope at this stuff. Last night, actually, let me tell you this. I'm hyping up my wife because, in the future, she wants to do some bigger things with nutrition. And last night I was struggling in the house. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I don't know what I ate, but your boy was having a hard time. I was having the biggest tummy ache of all time. And she came through heavy and she was like, I got you, fam. I got you. I'm dying. I'm about to, I'm almost tearing up. I'm like, I'm so uncomfortable right now. I haven't had a tummy ache in a long time. She gave me some apple cider vinegar, which is disgusting and something I hate. She diluted it in some water and she said, drink this, sir, and you will feel like $1 million. And I drank it and immediately I felt like $1 million. And I'll tell you what, when you're having, when your body is betraying you, when your body is, really going off and, really disrespecting you, like you feel like when you go from feeling terrible to like getting any type of relief, you really start to appreciate what it is to like be okay. Like just to be fine. And so I was just so appreciative. She saved me. So I'm just giving you guys that right now for when she's done with her program and she's providing her amazing services. You know, you have somewhere to come to help you. But you know, we'll talk more about that later. But yeah, I was having a tough time. I forgot what we were talking about, but our website's up. Our website is up, and it is running. It's that simple. So why is this great? Think about that scalability, the access. Your web server, remember I said eventually you all could, like, we would have to set up all that auto scaling and stuff if we were getting millions of users. This, we don't have to do any management. Like, you're equipped right now. This website could take probably millions of requests without any intervention and be able to serve the people. It scales up, no problem. Now I will have to pay for that data transfer and stuff, but like it's so low overhead. Like, I don't have to manage anything. It's super nice. So you can set up a website like this. It costs change per month, like cents per month for you to host. Yeah, and it's nice. And like I said, I have my website, Academy and Mastermind.io are all hosted at S3. Actually, I think this one's in Bootcamp. It's a static website that I generate using something called Hugo. But yeah, look, it's got more files in here, but you can see there's more files. You can see here we have a journey section that has, you know, decoded and horizons and pipelines, and it's all hosted right out of here. And there's pretty much nothing you could do to take it down, because it's hosted through this highly available, scalable thing. And like I said, let me look at my you know, I don't think my billing dashboard has anything that's super so yeah, so like my monthly balance is high, higher than normal, because we've been doing a lot of stuff with these with the boot camps. But look at, like, S3 is not even on here. Other services is at 16 cents. Like, it's not even on, S3 is not even on here. And I get a fair amount of traffic to my site, but look at that, 16 cents is all the other services that are in here. You know, not even $1. You don't even see S3 on here. EC2 is killing me right now because of pipelines in particular. But yeah, just so you guys could see how cheap it is, 16 cents. And like I said, I'm not getting millions of requests, but I am getting, like, I get a couple thousand hits per day on the Academy website. So, you know, not insignificant, but it costs me change. It costs me change to host. So just something for everyone to know. But that's it. That's setting up a site. How do you set up a site in S3? You copy the HTML files there. You change some permissions and you are good to go. Now, not important that you know, like, remember the process of doing that at all. The important thing is that you know that you can do it. And it's just fun to go through it and see it in action and start to understand how all of it works. You know, how all this tech stuff works, how websites are hosted, all that stuff. Pretty important. What's up, Abner Pergolese? What's up? Hello from Brazil. Hope you're doing well in Brazil. I know you guys are spiking with some coronavirus stuff, but I love Brazil. I'm gonna make it down there one day for sure. Welcome to the channel. Thank you so much. I'm glad to have you here. Why is pipelines costing so much? Oh, just because I keep forgetting to turn down the services, turn off the services. We spun up a number of instances, and I left them up for like a week and a half, and they have a number of things that we're going to be automating in pipelines, and I just left them up. So I have a lot of things. They're all stopped now, except for this. I don't know what this is, but I'm going to stop it. So I stop it when instances are stopped. Remember, you do not have to pay for them when they're stopped. So I'll stop. I just left them up, and it cost me $46. Not a huge deal. Not a huge deal. I might even, like I said, Amazon support is pretty kind. I might even say, hey, Amazon, I'm doing this thing. Here's a link. I left my stuff up. Please help me. But we'll see. Either way, you guys have been so gracious. A lot of, like, a massive amount of subscriptions this past month. So I truly thank you all. A lot of gifted subs. I really appreciate it. Again, all that money going into stuff like this. We're gonna try to grow. We're gonna try to do some dope stuff. But that's it. But that's it for today. What's the tangible takeaway from today? Even if you're still trying to go through this part, no big deal. I actually encourage you to try to set up more sites. Like, yeah, set it up once, try to go set up another site, try to go see if you can find a cool static website to take and try to set up your own website, whatever you want to do. Write your own HTML, see if you can host it inside of S3. But tangible takeaways for today, a lot of tangible takeaways. One, S3, simple storage service, scalable, cost-effective cloud storage service. Pretty simple. That's what the 3 S's are for, simple storage service. We learned a little bit about the different classes. Well, that's actually, let's not start there. We learned that it's massively scalable, that you can have an infinite amount of data in there. We learned that even though we can have an infinite amount of data inside of an S3 bucket, they're called S3 buckets, they're called buckets. But even though we can have an infinite amount of data, that one object can be from 0 bytes, so we can have a 0 byte file, all the way up to the largest file that we can have is 5 terabytes. So from 0 bytes to 5 terabytes, which is a pretty large file. We learned about some of the instant storage classes. We learned about infrequent access, Glacier and Glacier Deep Archive, and infrequent access single availability zone. So what is that? That is simply different methods for storing your data that give you different cost models depending on how you're going to be accessing your data, and you can use these models, these classes, to effectively manage your data for the least amount of money. We learned that you could host S3, you can host static websites from S3 buckets. Again, I've given you a video in the classroom of the difference between a static and dynamic website to hopefully help you understand a little bit more, to help you kind of understand the limitations of S3. You can't host any website in S3, but you can do some magic to host a lot of things in S3, to be honest. So check that out as well. And we saw how we did that. We saw that there were policies and permissions that we had to modify to enable anyone in the world to be able to access this stuff. We learned that by default, there's no access, nothing's publicly available. There we learned that you had to pay for a couple different things for S3. You had to pay for the storage, like the amount of data that's actually stored in the cloud. You also had to pay for, data that's transmitted in and out. We learned that you had to pay for kind of the management and replication, and you had to pay for, I forgot the 4th item, but it's in there somewhere, and you got to pay for that thing too. Yeah, and I think that's it. I think we also learned that versioning, that you can keep versions of files in a bucket. We learned that if you turn versioning on, the only way to turn, once you turn it on, you can't turn it off. The only way to turn it off is to delete all the items and remove the bucket and recreate it. So that's pretty important. But we also learned that you have to pay for every single version that you have in there. Yeah, and we learned, I think one of the other big things is that this is object storage. You don't need to really know in depth what object storage is, but you need to know this is object storage. They will use that on the test a lot. They'll basically give you a scenario that is asking you the best storage option to choose, and they'll say the word object in there, and that'll indicate to you that S3 is the option because it's the only object storage service that Amazon has. So a bunch of stuff here, a whole bunch of stuff, but Jackie, thank you so much for the gifted subs. Jackie Yalcine, I'm gonna go with that. VIP, vipping you. Five gifted subs gets everyone a VIP. I don't know how many VIPs I can have, but you are absolutely a VIP. I really appreciate you. Thank you so much. Everyone who received a sub from that, please thank Jackie. That's amazing. Thank you so much. Do you know what IPF is? Cloudflare IPF seems pretty cool. So I don't know what IPFS is, but Cloudflare is a CDN. Cloudflare is like what we're going to learn about on Wednesday, which is CloudFront in Amazon. And there might be a, I'll check up IPFS. Actually, let's look at it real quick. IPFS. Interplanet. I'll check this out. Distributed web gateway. Okay, I know. Yes, this is yes, I know what this is. Very similar to what we're going to learn next week. Not next week, on Wednesday. Very similar, but that's pretty cool. Kind of similar. There's a combination of AWS services that does the same thing. How do you redirect an S3 bucket to your domain? Great question. We will talk about that on Wednesday, but if you're trying to do it in the meantime, if you already own the domain, you can actually point using a CNAME record, you can actually point that at a non-Apex domain. So you can't point your Apex domain at it. So like you can't point like mastermind.io is my Apex domain. It's the main domain that I purchased. I can't point that directly at it if I'm outside of Amazon. My DNS is outside of Amazon, but I have www.mastermind.io pointed here. That's why if you go to mastermind.io, it will actually, oh, I thought it was going to redirect me. Maybe I moved this in. Oh no, it redirects you to www.mastermind.io. But yes, you can do that using a CNAME record. But we will go over that next time if you're unsure how to do it. But I say go off and try. If it's something you want to do in the meantime, go off and try to do it. But yes, Route 53 will allow you to do it a little bit easier if your DNS is already in Route 53. But again, that's a whole new concept. Let's see. Okay, that's it for tonight. We are late. I lied to you again. I lied again. And so, you know what? 3 weeks in, three and a half weeks in, almost 4 weeks. This is the fourth week. I haven't learned my lesson, but today I'm officially declaring that I've learned my lesson, and I'm no longer ever gonna say we're gonna get out of here early, because we never get out of here early. Yeah, we never get out of here early. So thanks for sticking with me. I hope everyone learned something tonight. Again, I'm just letting everyone know the homework and stuff is I'm just giving you fair warning right now. I kept it light last week to give people, we had a couple of like heavy sessions. Kept it kind of light because I thought there was enough there for people to kind of catch up on. I think for S3, I think there's enough information there tonight to kind of let you catch up on things as well and to learn a little bit more about S3. There's a big quiz. There's a big quiz, a test, and a fair amount of resources that are going to drop Wednesday after the class, so that you have, or when the class begins, so that you have like until the next week to kind of cover this stuff. Again, not super important that you have to like do all this before the next week, but there's actually going to be a significant amount more of extras to kind of go over. So I just don't want you to be overwhelmed when it starts to drop. So yes, there'll be actual homework, but again, it's for your practice. It's not it's not like you didn't do your homework, you'd fail, you don't know anything. No, it's just good practice to kind of allow you to get your hands on stuff and encourage you to touch and feel and play with the stuff that you're going to be doing. So tomorrow is Decoded. Tomorrow on Decoded, we are learning, if anyone's interested in that, we are learning, I want to say we're doing, actually I have no idea what we're doing. Wait, here comes, no, not things on the curriculums. I struggled. Decoded. Tomorrow, if you're interested, on Decoded, we are learning operators and logical conditional logic. This is going to be great. This is where we're going to be starting to make decisions in our program. So we've learned kind of a few of the pieces, the underlying pieces and tools to work with. But we're now going to learn how to kind of put some of those things together, and we're going to learn a little bit of logic in our code. Yeah, so check it out if you are coming through. And then next week, on Wednesday, back here, we'll be back with S3 and the S3 CLI. So learning how to manage S3 and interact with S3 from the command line. But we'll also be learning a few more S3 concepts. We'll be talking about how to connect it to your domain, and we'll also be talking about CloudFront. CloudFront's pretty important. It's a content delivery network. We'll be learning all about content delivery networks and how those things operate. Pretty important concept and pretty cool. But that's it. That's everything. Who we rating tonight? Let's find out. Let's check it out. Who's online? So also, we made some chicken pot pie, and like I had some earlier, and I wasn't hungry all stream, but I think my body was like, oh, you're finishing up the stream, you want some chicken pot pie, and I do want some chicken pot pie right now. So give me a little bit of some good carbs, some vegetable stuff, so in the morning when I go on my bike ride, I'll be feeling pretty good, and I'll go to sleep happy tonight. So let's head over to the science and tech section. I'll search for myself just so I can click on science and tech. That's all, only reason. Let's head over to, we hit up Kid Queb a couple times. We hit up CM. Let's pick someone down here doing stuff. Rigging, Maya and Python. Okay. We'll find something that's a little custom game. There's a lot of game devs here. on Twitch, and now I want to learn how to do some game development. C++. Let's see. Let's head over to 34 out of 100 coding challenge, project Spelldown, beginner, Unity get. Yeah, let's head over to this person. They're on there. They're learning how to do something. We're learning as well. Let's give them some encouragement. Yeah, let's give them some encouragement. Oh, Jackie, you're first off, let's that sounds like you're a streamer, so I'm gonna see if I can let's see if we can give you this little shout out since you're a VIP here, and let's check out your channel real quick. Copy. I can't type. Oh, hey, what's up? I know you. I watched your channel. Cool. Yeah, shout out. Everyone follow. I think you were doing some home automation. Yeah, there we go. Home automation. You're doing some home automation stuff with I think you're doing Rust when I was on there last, and I want to do some stuff. That's pretty dope. Yeah, if you're ever streaming while we're getting on, we'll head over and visit. We'll definitely head over and visit. Well, let's see. Let's head over to the Peach TV. I can type that in. I can definitely do that. That's pretty dope. I think I followed you on social. Hit me up. I think I have a lot of questions about Rust. We're about to start actually for everyone, we're about to start 2 weeks. We're gonna start a 100-day of coding challenge. Again, we're not doing coding here necessarily, but maybe if you wanted to start diving into it, we're gonna do a 100-day coding challenge. It's just a fun little process. I'm gonna be using Rust. I'm gonna participate as well. And so I don't know, it might be kind of cool I have some questions about Rust, and maybe it's some cool things you could let me know what to hit up or to learn, or how to approach some of the stuff. That'd be pretty dope. The Peach TV. We're gonna head over to the Peach TV and say what's up and encourage the Peach on his Unity journey. Looks like he's doing some game dev. Yeah, just ask some questions, have a little bit of fun. But thanks everybody for the great stream. Have a great night. I'm gonna get some of this pot pie. Thank you very much. Let's hit the raid button.